All right, let me look at you with my glasses on. Oh yeah, you look like you.
I know that a lot of people would probably be interested in talking about hammocks and all that sort of business that people want to chat about, but I kind of want to get away from that and kind of talk about just the general life of getting outside and engaging with the world and just
I like that. I
the
do.
experience of it.
I do get tired of talking hammocks sometimes if that's the only subject. Like I was looking at your website and your blog and your campfire or campsite chats or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I saw that picture of you sitting in your hammock and I was like going, yes, one of the tribe,
Yeah.
And, of course, for me, being in a hammock makes me a little more excited to go camping every time. I just know I'm going to sleep well, and I'm excited about being in my hammock. And other people are like, well, there's a lot of fiddling around with those things. And I go, that's the beauty. You don't have to use it. Throw your tent down or pitch a tarp or sleep under a bunch of pine boughs. I don't really care. You're outside. Enough said.
Yeah, to be honest, there's probably more fiddling about with some tents than there is a hammock. Just tie it up, you're done.
But I always feel like hammocks do lead to fiddlers. Like I notice there's a lot of engineering types that like hammocks because they like angles and stresses and, just it's got all these little components to it that for something so simple, it's quite complex to get right. With, one thing is hanging in a park or in your backyard or your garden or whatever. Another to go out and sleep comfortably. Let's say when the weather is, when it's fall, late fall, and no matter whether you're in the UK or the States or wherever, you got some cool weather and, you want to sleep warm. And I think that's where it gets a little confusing and hard for people with the under quilts and under blankets and pads and insulation. So I get that a lot of people just want to go back to their tents, and I'm like, good. I don't think everybody should be using a hammock, but I liked looking at your site, and I liked the questions that you gave, the topics about just being outdoors, because I think about that a lot, the philosophy of backpacking or just outdoors in general, a day working in the yard.
I mean, it's because I do a lot of backpacking and stuff, and I don't want it to be just about that. I want it to be more like, because there's so much you can do outside. It's unbelievable. Like even just spending 10 minutes outside, like you said, in your yard, your garden, like it just makes life that much better, I suppose. There's so much you can do, and I kind of want to get all those stories and experiences from loads of different people to share that, and for people to come across and say, actually, you know what? I don't have to just go for a walk. I can do all of these amazing things. I can do an endless amount of stuff outside, not just hiking.
When I was looking at your site, and it excited me that you're really into map and compass and orienteering. I've heard people say, oh, I've started walking to lose weight, and they walk for a while, and they go for their daily walk, neighborhood walk, I'm up to 3 miles, and they're doing this for their third month in, and then they go, I am so sick of walking, because they're just walking the same thing. And people either love that repetitiveness or I feel like, yeah, but you're outside, you love that. Maybe you just need to take maybe you try something like, I've never done it, that people get into geocaching, and they're following, I guess, GPS points, and it brings you into the woods a little bit. You're kind of following paths, and it's like, just walk differently then. Get off the sidewalks and start walking trails. You don't really need a map for a neighborhood trail. Just be aware a little bit. But it's gotten me thinking, looking at your site about orienteering. I remember in Scouts when we would just have to, the Scoutmasters would give us a course, and we'd have to go do it in a day and see if you come out anywhere close to where you're supposed to be. And, we'd be in our own neighborhood, but you'd end up going places that you wouldn't normally walk. And I was naturally pretty good at it, with just a lot of dead reckoning without getting too sophisticated. It was, I just go, it feels like, we have to do this bearing and we're going to have to like walk to the left around this thing. So I don't know, let's just kind of count our steps and then we'll kind of bear back 22 steps or so and then get back and we'll be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And I remember how exciting it was to come out and you're within eye shot, a stone's throw from where you're supposed to be.
It's so interesting.
You come out and it's, the one thing is you do have to concentrate a little bit. Like, let's quit talking. We need to kind of focus. Or when we learn those things, like two guys put a stick between them to kind of stay on course a little bit more, and you go, well, how does that work? And until you try it, you go, oh, there's something to that. It's leading you straight. And they always say that I'm left-handed, so I'm naturally going to walk to the left, and right-handers are naturally going to go to the right. You hear about that and you hear about people getting lost, but there's in this world of GPS and I have my one on my phone, but I still like a map and compass. To me, it feels like a superpower. I feel like an old wizard pulling out that map and you lay it down and people are going, oh my goodness, look, he's got a map and a compass, and you just go, I'm just getting a rough bearing just so we can look at it and go, those places where the trail goes in 6 different directions. And even though you have a bearing, you still have to kind of go on kind of a gut feel sometimes, like, boy, these 3 trails are pretty close. But as you walk, you start seeing this is getting less and less of a trail. So this is not it. Let's need to go back to the point and start again. And I love all that stuff. It feels like a disaster in the moment sometimes. But once you figure it out and you get back on the trail that you're supposed to be on, it's the best feeling ever.
Yeah, that's what you sort of have to. Part of the enjoyment is getting to the very edge of being lost and uncomfortable, but actually knowing that if it goes wrong, I just need to walk back 50 paces back or whatever. I'm not in touch. So you kind of just need to get to the edge, and that's kind of what makes it exciting, which I think it's quite nerdy navigation, but it is good.
That little funny feeling you get in your stomach, and you go, well, I'm not lost. I'm just off trail. I mean, I'm on a trail that's diminishing. So common sense says it's not going to go anywhere. It's petering out. So I should go back and try one of the other trails. But there's so many stories of people just forging ahead. And, there is that thing in the woods or being outside of, and maybe it's scout training of just kind of trusting your gut and staying calm and go, well, even if I have to walk back and start again, and this ends up being the way, it's better to explore all those options, keep going back to the place where I kind of felt like I got off trail and work from there. And worst case scenario, I'm going back and I got to backtrack way back the way I came. And, at the end of the day, you go, I'm still in the woods. I'm still out camping. It's just that we get in this life has us this, I've got to be from here to there in this amount of time. And I think the modern society has us kind of geared that way a little bit. So when the woods come up and teach you a lesson like that, going, oh, no, I'm in charge here. You will follow my lead.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like where using the map and compass kind of helps you, in as much as GPS takes that responsibility and that skill completely away from you, and you just follow this thing and that's it, and you kind of still rush through the experience of being outside. But actually using a map and compass and various navigation skills, you are using the outside, the world around you, to get to where you want to go, instead of just ignoring it and just following this GPS in front of you.
I like the GPS once in a while, where I used to never have one, me and my buddy Hickory. So if we were, like we never say, we're not lost, we're off trail. We're just not going the way we thought we were going. And we're like, man, this doesn't seem right. And it would take us sometimes 2 hours to figure out everything. Where now you can, the beauty of the GPS app, even on your phone, you go, oh, I can see exactly where I am. So I don't have to triangulate.
Yeah.
But I would still rather at that point, because I don't enjoy the interface of a GPS. I would rather go, I know where I am now. Now I want to get my map out and look. So it feels a little bit like cheating sometimes to even just
Yeah.
go, kind of ruins the fun, because the old days when we had to just kind of hunt around and go, well, we got to make camp here and we'll figure it out in the morning because it's getting dark. And often that camp became the best camp of the trip, because we weren't where we were supposed to be. So there was this all night sleeping. There was this little, I don't know, it's kind of a cool feeling and kind of a little bit of dread, like, how many miles off are we? We're gonna have to ration food, which
Yeah.
which means, oh, maybe I have to save a candy bar. No big deal.
No.
Kind of funny.
Yeah. No, it's just, I think, yeah, it just goes back to that whole, you're outside, just enjoy it. Like, just make the most of it. And you're always going to learn a lesson, no matter what you know already. You're going to learn something from it. And it's just the experience, the moment of being there.
The type 2 fun, the fun where it's much more fun to talk about it after.
Yeah.
When you're in it, it's a little bit of a quandary and there's that feeling. But when you're going to tell your story about getting lost or getting off trail or having an encounter or falling down a hill or whatever, or the rain just went for days and days and days, the bugs were horrendous. Those are the stories you tell. You don't say, oh, we had a lovely camp, because in my case, none of my family cares about my backpacking. They'll only when I get on the local news around here or something once a year, they'll go, oh, you're kind of famous. And I go, well, not really. It was just a news thing. But I said, I don't talk about it with family because you guys really don't care about that side of me. You just want to know if I saw a bear, or did I get hurt, or did I cry? They don't really care about the minutia of the outdoor experience, that sense of peace, that sort of sense of, I never quite have the right word for it. I always call it my Billy Jack moment from, you probably don't know that movie, but because I'm 62, there was a movie called Billy Jack when I was in the 8th grade, and he goes on a vision quest, dancing with rattlesnakes and eating peyote buttons and all that.
Yeah.
But I would say when I come back from a trip in the woods, I always feel like, I'll just say this, it makes me feel more manly. It gets me in touch with I know we're not supposed to talk about genders these days, but as a man, I get a bit more in touch with that deep part of myself that goes, I was comfortable out there. I was at peace. I'm not a hunter. I don't do all that stuff. I just go to the woods. I could be a hunter. I see tons of wildlife, and I always go, maybe they show themselves to me because I'm not hunting them, or I'm not out there with a chip on my shoulder. I'm just frolicking through their neighborhood, and you feel like, hey, that guy's cool. Let's let him see us do our thing. I honestly feel that nature can feel your intent, your reasoning sometimes of being out there.
Yeah.
It's about as hippy dippy as I get.
It is. Yeah, I know what you're talking. Like, I was saying in another sort of podcast thing I was doing, another interview, I was talking to one of our British explorers, and
oh yeah, I was looking at that guy. Yeah, I'm always interested in the explorer's mind.
Yeah, and it is kind of, when you're outside, we kind of have that tendency. I suppose it's more people who aren't that interested in getting outside, but we have a tendency to disconnect ourselves from the natural world. But actually, when you're getting outside and on the trail, or just sleeping in the woods where every little noise at night is a bear or something trying to come and eat you, it brings you back into the real world of, actually, it's just nature. We are all part of it. We're all one thing, instead of this completely separate part of us and then the natural world.
Well, it's, I get the question a lot on my YouTube when people will want to know more about going backpacking solo. And I say, it's not for everybody. I said, it might help if you're a bit of an introvert. And I'm an introvert at heart. People often don't believe that because, if you do a YouTube channel or something and play, and as a performer all my life, most performers are spirited introverts. We work the crowd. We have this great connection with humanity from stage, and then we can just go and be alone or be with a couple of friends and be quite content, or back to the hotel room with your thoughts and you debrief the moment. And I'm happy to be alone going, oh, get in my hotel room and drop my bags and go, finally, I get my energy back. And so that I would talk about when I first go solo, I said, I just practice when it would get dark. Dusk is always the weirdest time, the most sort of melancholy time camping. I said, once it gets full dark, it's comforting. Dusk is this transition. And I said, I would just sit out in the dark, no headlamp on, wouldn't just blow my candle lantern out or not light it yet, and just sit in the dark. And you just realize the wind sounds the same. Maybe there's less of it. Maybe there's more of it. I can still hear the lake. It sounds the same. I'm probably more in tune to the noises now in the woods because it is dark. And I think we're sensing our survival thing is listening. And you realize a rabbit or a mouse sounds like a bear. You're not going to hear a bear. They're quite stealthy. And I said, the thing is, it's like when I lived in New York City at first, every siren, every sound, you're on high alert. And 6 months in, you're kind of used to it. And I said, now I can lay in my hammock. And when I hear noises at night, or you hear a fox, foxes make weird noises. When the first time you hear a fox screaming or a deer, and you're just laying there going, what does that sound? And you just succumb to it and go, well, I don't want to get up. I'm so comfortable here in my hammock. What am I going to do? Literally, am I going to get up and pack and leave? No, I'm out here for the duration. If it was a bear trying to get my food, I may get up and try to deal with it. But I just lay there now and just ponder it. If it was sounding like a bear right outside my tarp, I may take some action of trying to get rid of it. But half the time, I don't even care. I think you just go, I don't know what I could do anyway, and I love that. And I think that's just, we all, by taking more time in nature, I always tell people this. I go, when you're backpacking or you're walking in the woods, whether you're with a couple of friends or by yourself, I said, it's like driving a boat. You look like you're really relaxed up front. Everybody's drinking some beer and wine in the back, and you're driving, talking. But the whole time you're vigilant. You're watching for other boats, for jet skiers, but you're not panicking about it. It's not like you're just scanning. And I always say backpacking or being in the woods is the same way. You're vigilant without being nervous. You're just aware. You see bear scat. Okay, bears take these trails too. It doesn't look like it's real fresh. And if it hears me, it's probably going to leave. So it's good to know that it's there, but it's no reason to be scared. So I think, the point of your outdoor thing, I remember in college going camping with a couple of friends. We took them camping with us. And these are the days we'd take a bottle of whiskey and, just go camp for a night. It was almost glamping, but we were carrying backpacks, and they hated the experience. They did not like being in the woods. They want to be in a bar. They want to be partying in a different sense than we were, where we're going, we can drink a couple of shots of whiskey out here in the forest. And they're going, it's so boring. And I just remember being, wow, I don't know if they were scared. I just wasn't their cup of tea. You just kind of go, all right.
Yeah.
Not for everybody.
That's kind of actually the whole reason I set this whole thing up, my whole site, among other reasons. But it's that question that you get, and I suppose every outdoor person gets, is why do you want to do it? Like, what? It's boring, apparently. Why do you want to go out and get wet and cold? And I kind of wanted to set this whole thing up and share these stories and sort of tell my own stories and experiences to answer that question of actually, there's so much more to getting outside than just getting cold and wet and miserable. And it's just not boring at all. There's so much out there, but you just got to be in tune with it. You need to have your eyes open by something to understand.
It's like I get bored and maybe I let myself be bored if once or twice a year, not this year with the pandemic, but say you get together with a bunch of guys and gals to watch some big sporting event in someone's house, and there's a lot of people and there's a lot of drinking and just hubbub. And I enjoy it. I have to dread it for a whole day. You know, I'm one of these guys. I have to for 24 hours have to just, oh God, dread this thing. You know, I'm trying to work on going, I'm going to go try to be a normal human being and just enter the moment. And I go, I shouldn't even have to think that way. But as entertainers, sometimes you have to go, I need to go and just be a regular human. Don't be working on bits. I don't have to be the life of the party. I can just blend in. And oftentimes I would go, I'm kind of a little bit bored holding in my natural instinct to show off or mouth off or whatever it is. And maybe it was just the experience going, I'd actually kind of rather just be home watching it by myself or with one or two other people rather than 16. And it makes me feel sometimes like maybe I'm not a normal human, where that experience of the woods, to me, I've always told people if I have to take it down to the basic thing, a sense of peace and comfort. Even as a kid, you know, grade 6 or grade 5, or we call it the 5th grade in the States, or hanging out with my buddy Hickory after school before we'd go do our homework and everything. If we weren't playing sports, we would go to the woods and play, you know, build a fort, play in the creek, just assing off in the woods. And always the minute we got, you know, 100 yards into the woods, I would just feel this comfort and peace come over me, where I'd see other kids get nervous in the woods. The woods made them nervous. You could see it in them. They were out of their element. And you know, at the time I wasn't really consciously thinking that. I just know, analyzing this for years, going, no, I always felt that. And I do to this day, just this sense of belonging, refreshment, recharged. That's why I always joke with people, I don't even like to go on day hikes. If I can't sleep out there, forget about it. And of course, I do like a day hike, but you know, I'm always seeing, oh, I could hang the hammock there, because waking up in the morning, I think having that night in the dark, full night's sleep, a full day, another day, there's something about that 36 hours, 48 hours immersion, or longer if you can get it, but let's just say 36 to 48 hours. There's some kind of internal thing that happens. I don't know what it is. It's complicated. It's deeper than I can really put into words personally. And I'm sure, looking at your face, you know exactly the feeling I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like every year, well, apart from the last year, but me and 3 other guys, we go to Sweden to do usually about 5 days of just hiking on the trail in Sweden, out in the forest, whatever. And it is that the moment of when, it is hard to explain even when I'm thinking about it now, but like,
I know it is. I always have a hard time finding the exact, there may not be words for it. It's so deep that it's just, have you ever had this moment with a friend where you start laughing so hard that you literally cannot make a sound? And it only happens with certain people. And I've tried to Google that experience to find out what it is. Laughing uncontrollably, well, 100 other things. I don't think there's a term for it. This intense, it goes for 20 minutes sometimes. It's happened between me and Hickory. It feels like you're high. I mean, I did drugs back in my old days. I played around with drugs. It is a better high than any of those. You feel so euphoric. And you can't even start to talk again. And you go into this bent over, no sound coming out of your mouth, yet you're laughing so hard. It's like your body, thinking about it right now, my body tickles. I don't think there's a term for that. I have never been able to find a medical term for that. And I've even mentioned to some people and they go, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. So I'm going, well, they haven't experienced it. And I think the woods, I can never put my finger on it. I always feel like I say the wrong thing. I feel manly. I feel joy. I feel spiritual. I feel, here's the thing. And tell me if this, I think I know your answer, because everybody I ever talk to that does podcasts about this, whether it's backpacking, hammocks, anything outdoor related, if you really ask me honestly, I feel uncomfortable and out of place in the real world, in the modern day-to-day society of schools, grocery stores. When I step into the woods, out of that parking lot, out of that trailhead into the woods, I feel I belong. I feel like I'm finally somewhere, even if I was hanging with all the guys in Braveheart or whatever. One of those characters would be me. I don't know which one, but I would be part of that tribe, that band, and feel comfortable. I just know it, because I don't say that to most people, because they go, what do you mean you don't feel comfortable in the real world? I go, I don't really. I'm able to fake my way through it. And maybe a lot of us do that, but put me in the woods, I feel I belong. And that's maybe the closest I can get to it. That never really said it that way, but that's
You
how
almost, like you said, you think your way through the normal parts of life, going to the store and stuff, but actually when you get into the woods, all that thinking about getting through it just goes. You don't need to think about it, because it is that natural, it's home sort of thing. There is nothing, all that stress, all that anxiety of being out, all these strangers and stuff, it completely goes. It's like, this is
you want it out of your mind. That's sometimes it takes 3 days to get it out, or 24 hours to go. Like, I even tell my wife sometimes, going, I don't really think about you a lot out there. I want to know you're okay. But like, sometimes when me and Hickory backpack, Meg will say, what did you guys talk about? And I go, leaves and string cheese. Nothing deep. We didn't want to. We didn't want to talk about Trump or American politics or pandemic or world gloom or, environmental grief, all that shit that I hear all the time. I don't want it. I don't want to think about when people go, nature is going to be destroyed and not be there. And I go, I don't want to think about that. Then go get in it and enjoy it now, rather than sit home and dwell on it. I mean, I'm out enjoying it. It ain't going to end tomorrow. And it gets me thinking out there, like, it's so easy to get gloomy and melancholy and bummed out these days with just negativity. Just, it's the decade, it's the time of negativity, just negative thoughts, just shit coming at you all the time. So I go out there and go, well, Minnesota used to be under a glacier, so it's nothing new. It's not really new. It's just happening now, and it gets put on us, and we're very aware of it. And so I'm just going to not dwell on it and go to the woods and go, hey, woods, it seems simplistic. I mean, even saying that makes me feel like pretty shallow, Shug. But I feel deep when I'm out there. I was looking in your site and I saw the picture of you in your hammock with your billy pot hanging on your cool little stand. And then there's another one where you're sitting on the ground. And I can look at those pictures and know that you love being in that moment. You're boiling some water, you're going to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or, making some food or something, whatever it is, you're going to sit there and have it in the woods. And if it's a bowl of ramen noodles, it's going to be the best ramen noodles you ever had. And if you're having a cup of tea, it's going to be the best PG tips you ever had, because you're sitting in the perfect place by yourself, feeling like you belong. I was watching last night a little YouTube clip of some people climbing K2. And it's always funny to watch these. It was an Eddie Bauer clip. And you see the emotions. The guy was crying on his way up. You see the emotions that people get, and part of it's probably just the agony and the pain and the exhaustion and the time it's taking. And yes, I haven't died yet. I still have to get down without dying. But I was just thinking, I bet this guy never does even cry at funerals, but yet this kind of emotion is going to get him because he's in a place where he feels his true self, probably.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you saying that. It's because like when in normal life I'm pretty much known for like being completely emotionless. Like it's just like just get on with life, whatever. And then me and Sarah, my girlfriend, we'll go out for big walks or whatever. And it's at that point when we go to like the local woodlands or whatever, where we suddenly have those talks of our life and all these big philosophical talks about what's actually happening in our lives and what we're going to do and like whether we're happy and all that sort of stuff. But that's not really stuff that we talk about at home or when we're walking around the shop. It's once you get outside in your comfortable area where you start feeling all these emotions and actually in tune with yourself, I suppose.
I think
it's interesting.
It may be for some of us to get to the root of it, a decluttering. I feel when I'm in society, even today, I wake up and I'm a guy, I'm retired now, and I wake up every day and go, man, you don't have to have this sense of urgency that you always had all your life. I have to be there at this time. I'm a very on-time person. And I know I come off like a big buffoon. That's part of my magic. I work at stuff. I work hard at stuff, but I'm not a guy that can go, I'm the greatest entertainer ever. I'm the greatest backpacker. No, I'd rather tell you I'm the worst because then I got nothing. I got no way to go but up. But that fires me up. I mean, it must be my Irish Catholic nature to sort of kick myself down a little bit. And then you only have one way to go. But it's part of the game. But even today, I wake up now and I sit on the edge of the bed for about 12 seconds. My wife and I have a thing. If I'm up first, it means I'm going out to make the coffee. And she's going to lay in bed about another 15 minutes. So I can have the 15 minutes to kind of be by myself to get it all ready, instead of the two of us getting in each other's way. And if she's up first, then I lay there.
Yeah.
So I don't feel, this is great we're having this talk because I often can't get the answers on these, but there's in real life, being at home in the real world, I just feel urgency, things coming at me. And I get in the woods and all those tendrils that are doing this just go away. I think that's a big part of it. And, where other people they get in the woods and they think a bear's going to eat you. You're going to fall off a mountain. You're going to freeze to death. Your food's going to run out. You're going to get a soggy sock stepping in a creek. Your mother's going to get mad at you. And that may happen to them and it doesn't happen to us. It might just be I have this thing. I'm not a real religious person. I'm not really a practicing Catholic. I liked all the show, but I had to tell my mother once, I said, Mom, anytime we've been in Mass, I have never felt God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit. I've never been moved. I put up with it because you'll box my ears if I don't go. When I go in and do confession to the priest, I'm making shit up to tell him to make his day go a little better. I said, I don't mind going, but I don't feel it. But, when I go in the woods, it's not a religious thing. I have said a prayer in the woods. I was sitting one time in my hammock and I was having kind of a strange day and I decided to say a prayer. It's been a long time since I prayed. And say it out loud, being kind of like, kind of keep it. I don't know what your religion, kind of keep it. It's all kind of keep it in, and I just started saying it out loud and it went and went and went and it felt real. I almost cried but I stopped myself. I'm going, what a pussy, don't cry. But I felt really, I felt a sense of lightness afterwards. So there is some spiritual thing, going on out there, bigger than other things for some of us, I don't understand the guys and gals that row across the Atlantic solo in their own little rowboats. I go, now that's crazy. But I get why they're doing it, the planning, that they might die, all that stuff. You know, I feel as a backpacker, I'm way down the list of someone that may die. I'm not a thrill seeker. I'm going, I have my pack on, all my stuff is in here.
Yeah.
I should be fine, you know, but then again, as we said earlier, nature can come and throw a storm on you or do whatever it wants with you out there. You know, you have to kind of, maybe that's what it is. You have to relinquish a little bit of control. You know, we can control everything or try to more in real life. But when we go to the woods, you know, I've hiked with people that are, you know, we're doing 22 miles today. And I'm going, I don't think we are.
Yeah.
A lot of blowdown. There's a lot of trees on the trail. The weather's weird. We might make 12. And you can see that they're fighting this. And it's like going, you're going to lose, you know.
Yeah, it's like getting out on the trail isn't something that you necessarily should have those strict plans for. It's something you get out and you roll with it, and if it stops you at 10 miles, stop at 10 miles, make camp, make food, whatever. Like, just go with it and just go with the experience in the moment instead of ignoring it all to stick to your strict plan.
I've gotten so much better at that as I've aged. How old are you, James?
29.
Are you 29? Oh, you're my daughter's age.
Oh, okay.
All right. You got a long way to go, but you seem like but you know, you're thinking about it, you know, and I think that's, you know, even when I was in college, university with commercial art, I realized a thing about myself going, I think I'm kind of a fresh being, because some of my fellow students seem like they had been recycled through this life 7, 8 times. Their concepts, their conceptualism was deeper than mine, on a deeper level. They could just paint a picture. I remember my art teacher came up to me once and said, Sean, you know, everything's not about boobs and blood. And I was going, I know, it's all I got. And that's when I went off to be a performer, because I said, I need to go see the world. I need to be out there. I've got to go find my conceptualism, where I feel like some of these students have it already, like it's in them. I remember that was one of my first deep moments. So in my life, you know, just, you know, people will often talk to me about, a lot of my interviews are about being a performer that backpacks. And I go, you got to remember, I was a backpacker and a camper and a scout way before I was ever a performer. So that was already in my life, you know, and I was able to work it, keep it going through my performing life, because at the end of one of my summer seasons of doing all these state fairs, just back to back shows for 3 months, my big money season, then to go solo backpacking was just the antithesis of being in crowds, playing to people. And it was never a thing like, oh, I miss it, I feel like I need an audience. No, God, no. You know, I had my fill of that. And now I could just have the woods, though, because I'm a YouTuber, I'm filming myself a lot. But the actual percentage of that, I've tried to think about it. I'm going, you know, it's probably 1%, maybe less of a trip that I'm actually filming. You know, I've had trips where I tried to film a lot, and I never even used the footage because it was just forced. You know, I was forcing myself to say something. And, you know, the scary part of that is I was on a podcast last week, and we were talking more about being a YouTuber. I said, now I'm trying to take a backpacking trip and not bring my camera and keep it to myself, but I'm not able to, because I want to share it with a few people that have reached out to me and said they live vicariously through my adventures. You know, on the other note, filming trips has changed the way that I see the woods. When I was your age, it was head down, try to put the miles in. And it was all about the distance and not the journey. It's the opposite now. But because I have that camera, as I'm walking along, and one of my rules is I'll walk by, and if I see a little birch bark flapping off a tree in the wind as I walk by, I'll go, that was cool, I should have filmed that. Oh, I stop and I go back. If I say that, I go back and film it. I get the camera out and I film the birch bark, and I'm zooming in and I'm bringing the camera down, getting some angles. So I'm taking the moment to film it, which is really letting me appreciate this little place on a birch tree going, man, there's a lot going on in that little area. But the payoff and the gift of that is when I turn the camera off, I call it my regard moment, where I'm standing in the woods, and this may be a spot that is not a destination. Most hikers probably never stop there unless they have to pee or something, because there's no creek, there's no view, there's no anything. It's just in the woods. And I stop, you know, and it's that thing of like just silence, and you hear some birds, or it's the wind is blowing through the top, whatever it may be. And I just regard that moment. And it might be 10 seconds. And sometimes it turns into 5 minutes where I actually take my pack off and go, I'm going to sit down and have a snack here. This is kind of a cool moment. So the camera has led me to that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's a moment that I get that I'm not filming, but it came through filming.
Yeah, I was getting, that was going to be one of my questions, is that now, does the filming actually kind of take the experience away from you because you're thinking, oh, I need to make these films, or has it actually brought you more in touch with?
It's brought me more in touch with it. It has for me personally. I don't think it would for everybody, but you know, I think one day whenever I quit filming, then I will just take a camera and take photos, because it forces you to stop. And, you know, you walk by and you see a little wildflower, because most backpacking photos that you see that don't have people in them are just little things, you know, they're just little, you know, of course you have the big panoramic views, and I love those. But my favorite moment is someone takes a picture of a wildflower, or just some spruce, you know, fronds sticking out with some little brown needles lay, you know, those little moments that we all see. You know, it's like our lives, you know, you and your girlfriend, or me and my wife, Meg. The best part are not our big moments. It's just our day-to-day. Come around 7 o'clock when we sat down and had dinner last night. I made eggplant parmesan, and just, she got home from her circus studio. She got a PPL loan. She was really happy, but we just had dinner, and it wasn't like we were naked or, you know, fireworks were going off. We were just sitting and we watched a movie, and it was just, I look over and I go, here's a woman I've been married to for 35 years. The only person I can really stand to be around all the time that doesn't suck the life out of me. You know, my wife's sexy talk is, we're a great team. And you have to be, you know, it's like when you were talking about your girlfriend and you go to the woods and you talk about life things. Lately during this pandemic, you know, and retiring, and I'm a pensioner now, and we've saved money all of our life. Meg's always been practical. And my question is, and the pandemic has made me think of this, like, what are we saving money for? To die better? Is it just to die better, to be in a better facility? You know, of course we want to leave some to our daughter, because I want to buy a Jeep. I really want a Jeep Rubicon. And I was telling my wife, I'm going, I don't want to drive a minivan anymore. I don't want to be a 62-year-old man with a bald spot in a minivan, because if it's just saving money to die, what the fuck? You know, it just doesn't. And that's what it feels like right now at this age. I know at 29, that seems like geezer talk, because I've saved money. You know, Meg, about your age at 29, when I quit drinking, we started IRA funds and started putting all the money away that I had pissed away drinking and stuff, and made a plan. And now you get there and you go, well, to do what? We're not going to move to Florida. You know, we're probably going to stay in this house. We can go for a month or two to the beach or somewhere we want to go, or my dream, maybe I'll get to see you someday, because my dream is to, a guy has got me cast in this movie that I'd have to go to the UK to shoot, where I get to play a really evil, crazy old cult leader that lives in an asylum called Daddy. But I've always wanted to do I have family all over the UK and Ireland, because I was born in Northern Ireland. My mom's from Tipperary.
Right. Okay.
So I've always wanted to do this tour, now that I'm older, with Meg, of all the stately homes, you know, go see Lord Montagu's car museum, go have tea. This sounds so boring. I want to go have tea. I want to be back at the inn or the hotel by 7 o'clock, have a nice dinner, be in bed by 9:30, 10, and get up and go to another castle or stately home, and do it in England and Wales and in Scotland and Ireland, and just sort of just maybe see relatives, maybe not, but just kind of just, I want to see these murals. I want to see these tapestries. I want to see the grounds, I want to see it while it's still there. And I know those represent, you watch, any of us Americans watching Downton Abbey or whatever, you see when the change comes through where, even Lord Grantham's going, I don't really want to lose 3 footmen. Maybe you young people don't want it, but I've had it all my life. I kind of want it, and I feel that way about an American born overseas who came to the South in America and had to try harder because I was born in Ireland and I had a funny accent and had to integrate myself. And now I'm at an age where I think back to the South with today's times of going, Meg and I will watch a movie based in the 1970s, and we always go, God, I love the 70s. You smoked indoors. Yes, there was still racial inequality and pollution and wars and all that stuff. It just wasn't talked about all the time because you only had a couple of news channels. I'm talking about the days before answering machines where you either answered the phone or you got a busy signal. And I crave these simpler times, mainly for, it's the same kind of thought about the woods. I don't know if I'm seeking the joy of youth a little bit and being a little bit not that aware, or wanting to leave today's, we should be the happiest planet in the world now, most of us, with all the technology we have, instantaneous everything. But we're the opposite. And, and I, even as a boomer, an old boomer, which I am now, hey, boomer, and I accept being a boomer proudly, but I have watched documentaries on millennials. I've taken millennials into my heart, and the other ones I understand they're into the experience and not the materialistic thing and local sourced. I buy more local source groceries because the millennials have taught me that to understand them rather than be closed-minded. But saying that, I wonder sometimes, and I'm sure because some forums I'm on, even in the UK, I've seen everybody saying because of this pandemic, the one place we can go is outside. So here in the States, boy, you couldn't buy ice skates, you couldn't buy camping gear, you couldn't find snowshoes. Everybody's doubling down on going outside. Now, I wonder when the day comes that they go, hey, we don't have to wear masks, it's cured. Will a third or half of those people drop from their outdoor activities? They're only doing them because they can. That's kind of on my mind. Part of me kind of wants them to, because the trail was crowded. I don't know. It's a quandary. So it's like even growing in the South, I dream of all the things that used to be there. And now you go to these old spots that I remember, and they're torn down, and there's a coffee shop and condos and a modern little community there. And I'm wistful about it. So it's even as you get older, you get caught. Like, I feel sometimes, it's sad to say, that the modern world, that's why I don't even mind retiring. Like, I'm kind of in the back seat now, just kind of going, yep, just drive me around. I'm just back here. I don't care. Here's the keys, take them. I'm fine. Where you're at an age where it's still ahead of you. So I think even the outdoors may be even more of a comfort. Even when I come out and just chop firewood for 2 hours, it feels like Meg always goes, she goes, oh, you went out and got God's workout. Not that she's religious. We just always call outdoor stuff is God's workout rather than come out here and, do push-ups and calisthenics and do, a 30-minute workout. You just go, well, how backpacking exhausts you. For me, when I get home, the physical part, I feel a day or two later, but there's an exhaustion from peace.
It's almost as if you're exhausted from being so relaxed.
That feeling? I think we all. You'd come home and take your shower, and you're just like, I'm so tired. God, I don't. and I slept plenty in my hammock. I slept 10 hours every night,
Yeah.
where I don't at home, yet I'm exhausted. And I think it's from my favorite memories as being a kid, like about a sixth or seventh grader, was on a cool fall night. Me and some of my friends, we would play army in the woods. You're just out there playing fake army. And you're just running around in that cold weather in a sweatshirt. Your cheeks are all red, and you come home and have your dinner, and you're yawning, and your mom would say something like, "Oh, you're tired from all the fresh air." And I go,
Yeah.
"Am I? What is that? What the hell's that mean?"
Yeah.
Because maybe when you're out there, you were double alive or something, and I never thought about that. But maybe that's where the exhaustion comes from, because you can totally be your true self. Somebody said to me, even my mom said this to me once. She said, "A lot of people think you're funny, but I know you're a tight ass." And I laughed. She said, "You plan everything." And I go, "I know. God, you're the one person that can see me." And people will say to me, "Oh, you're so spontaneous." And I go, "Oh, God, no, I'm not. Call me tonight and see if I want to go out. I'll make an excuse not to, because what I mentioned earlier, I need 24 hours to dread it.
Yeah.
Then you can't get me to go home. You can't get me to leave the party then." So I think it's a thing, maybe when we're in the woods, I'll speak for myself, but I just got to lump you into it. I think we all have our hand out in life a little bit. And, it's like, I've been learning to let people in a little bit. Sometimes I still stop here. I'm a good foot. And I'll go, "I'm going to stop you right there." And then maybe as I get to know you or backpack, the hand may come fully down. You fully, like I can totally be myself. So maybe when we're in the woods, all of us, the people you've interviewed, the adventurer, the girl that does the wildlife photography, the mountain bikers, whatever your outdoor activity is, the rock climbers, the fishermen, the artists that just go outside and do all their art standing out in a field. I think we're not putting anything out there. So our joy of experiencing and giving and all of it we're doubling down. Our output and our input is more. Thus, that may be why we're so tired. We get that it's a good exhaustion, but you're just going, "Well, I don't know why I'm so tired. I just slept, 10 hours one night and then 12 hours another." So that could be the explanation. Just the guards are down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I wonder.
like, it's just this, the soul, isn't it? It's hard to explain, but it is
It's
that
the heart,
part
and I
of your
think
soul that isn't active usually, but once you actually release yourself and relax and actually get somewhere you're comfortable, I don't know if it's the exhaustion of having to put up with everything beforehand and you just letting all that go and being like, "Crap, that was stressful, and now I can just relax."
Could be that release
Yeah.
of holding off and holding on, and also just meeting your goals. Like, even when I was a drunk, I never thought I was an alcoholic because I always got my stuff done. Well, you realize later that has nothing to do with it. You can be a high functioning alcoholic. You'll always find time to drink and make people cry and still get your work done. And I think, even as a circus clown, clowns, we're wired. I've told people, people are often confused about clowns, and that's my background. I'm going, circus clowns, we're like comics or actors. We're a little bit damaged somehow. So we like to take our rage, our self-loathing, our self-hate, our good feelings, the whole package. We'll put it all together, the bad stuff and the good stuff. And all we want to do is go out and perform and make you laugh. Take all that rage, all that goodness, just everything you got, throw it out there at the audience. It's cathartic because when you see people laughing at your gag or you nailed your juggling, you come off and you feel that same way, a related sense of it, of how you feel when you come out of the woods for a few days. There was a release of something. By the end of the day, whatever self-loathing you had in the morning has been expelled through your comedy. And maybe that's, I know that I love having these talks, and this is probably the deepest one I've had, because I think it's why backpackers go to forums or canoe people, because we're the only ones that may understand each other. And really, no one can ever really put that word, like I find peace, those sound like kind of pat answers that I'm able to put out there that kind of go, well, they'll cover it. We had this man at a Thanksgiving once. He was a friend of my sister's. He was an ex-corporate guy. I didn't know him, but he came up to me. We were going through to get our turkey and everything, and said, I'm going to sit next to you because you seem interesting. And I was like, okay, calm down. Okay, sure. And we sat there, and he started questioning me about being a performer. He says, why do you like performing? And I kind of went, it feels good. I love making people laugh, blah, blah, blah. He went, bullshit. Give me an answer. And all my sister-in-laws got mad at him. And I was going, no, wait. He's the first person that's really made me think about this. Like I said, give me 10 minutes to think about it, because I don't even think that I've thought about the why. Part of it in my generation was just to have a job and an income. Like, of all the things I could do in life, I was going, I'm going to join the circus. People do make a living at it. I've never been money driven. I want a job that's really cool and I can keep learning at, but I got to have a job doing something. And that one seems like kind of like interesting. Like, I'm not going to want to hang myself every night, as opposed to some other jobs where I'm going, ugh, you kidding me? I would soon be dead than do that for a month, feeling that way when you're young and cocky. So to be asked that and have to think about it. And I think this talk we're having, and if you were to get 20 of us together, from people that climb mountains to people that just like fishing, I don't think it's the intensity of the activity. To me, it's not a competition. It is the getting out there. And particularly when you can get out for, like you said, with your friends for 5 days. For 5 days is a nice chunk of time. Anything past 3, that 4 and 5 are really good, And you start to really you're not tripping on every little rock. Your morning chores and routines are just a little more efficient, hanging that billy pot, building that fire, getting that water. You kind of know where everything is now in your pack, even a little bit better. And there's a beauty in that. But I still tell people, I go, it's an ass load of work. All you're doing is working. I mean, yes, when you get to camp, you have a little relaxing time. Then you got to clean the pot. Then you got to go to sleep. And then you got to get up and you got to pack it. You got to do it all over. And then you got to walk. And I said, so it's not a journey of just floating on air. Whee! There's a lot of work in it. And winter camping is twice the amount. But for those little moments that, okay, when I was looking at the picture of you sitting by your billy pot in the hammock, and I was thinking, hopefully when that camera took that picture, you were looking at some great view and you just continued to sit there. And it's for those moments where we're just able to go, I don't really have to get up and do it. I could continue to sit here. It's not like I have to do anything until the morning. I just have to feed myself, hang my food, get the camp ready for night, go to sleep. And if you go with a couple of friends, and I think probably your 4 or 5 friends you go to Sweden with, probably the reason you continue to do it, it's like the people I camp with, they're self-sufficient. We all know whether, I'm kind of the loud, chatty guy. I camp with a couple of guys who are real quiet. Like, them getting excited might be this. Just the corner of the mouth. And my wife will look at them on video and go, are they having fun at all? I'm going, they are having a great time.
Yeah.
They're not showing it like I do, but they are so content. Like my friend Alex once, he just said, dude, there's nowhere I'd rather be. And that's Alex. He's not a real talkative guy till you get to know him. He's a deeper well than he looks. But when I first did we've known each other through circus. And that was maybe 5 years ago. We did a trip on the border route, just me and him. And Meg he wanted to go backpacking and he wanted to learn the ways of the hammock. And, he'd put a little work into it. And I said, yeah, come on. I mean, I'll look at your rig. I'll loan you an underquilt, help you get set up in it. And you can decide if you want to buy one or not. And that morning when I got up, he usually sleeps in, but he was sitting in his hammock sideways, tarp back, smoking a cigarette, kind of sitting in there like, you know, with his legs crossed in the hammock. And I was going to get my food bag and I was going, Alex. And he just looked at me and went, dude, there's nowhere I'd rather be. For him to say, that's him yelling, oh my God, this is great. You know, that's about as excited as he gets. And I told Meg that. I said, he just had this Joker grin. And I said, I knew he loved it. You know, it's like, I never had to worry again. Is he having fun? Did he want to do this, but doesn't want to do it? Like you go, oh no, this guy's at home out here. So I will always camp with him for that, you know. And plus he watches my back a lot. You know, he takes point real well. He's really good. He checks on me a lot, just as an old guy, you know. He just, I always tell them, I'm going to stay back to film a little bit, because if I'm in front, I got to keep holding you up. So he will naturally slow the group down when I stop to film something. Never had to have a discussion about it. We call it ramble -1. And then I got to kind of go ramble +1 to catch up a little bit till he can see me. And then he'll go back to like ramble or ramble 1.
Yeah.
But he'll keep the young guys from just charging down the trail because of me. So he's intuitive in a lot of ways like that. And I think I don't really, you know, and even with this YouTube thing, I say no to a lot of people. I always get invited to camp with people. And as I said, well, you feel like you know me from watching the videos. I don't know you. Now, if did a podcast last week with these 2 guys from Kentucky, and I'm going to go down and camp because we've met like this now. At least, even though we're in a computer, you can look another guy in the eye, although we're never really where we're looking, you know. Yeah. You get a sense for someone, and that's enough for me sometimes to go, yeah, I'd camp with that guy or go do something. But total strangers that I've never seen just come on YouTube, I'll always do a polite answer getting out of it. I'll politely excuse myself, you know.
Washing my hair that day.
Yeah, or just, you know, I usually say, I don't have enough time to go with my dear friends or enough solos, because I would be a little bit anxious going and meeting total strangers that I've not had a connection on a forum with or seen a photograph or know nothing about. The time in the woods is too precious to possibly waste it. Yeah.
It's strange saying that, like, people on this side know you, but you don't know them. It's yesterday, Sarah was like, oh, are you nervous about talking to Shug? And I was like, well, the previous chat I had with Benedict Allen, even though he's somebody that I watched when I was little, growing up, doing all his like proper documentaries and stuff for the BBC, he was a proper childhood hero, but I didn't know him, and it was quite intimidating. But actually, I've been watching your videos for years, and your personality, or it comes across on there, it's very personal, and it almost is as if like, well, I know him, so it's not as scary. Like, I don't know, it's strange.
What I tell people, so I was doing a hang pre-pandemic. Me and Hickory went down to this thing called the Yates Hang, and we get together for a trip every year. And Yates was a gathering of hammockers. And I didn't really want to go because, to be honest, to be Shug sometimes and show up somewhere, it's a fine line of being. I have to kind of be me. And then it's like if you went backpacking with me, you'd start to see the quieter side of me. You know, we have to play ourselves. I mean, this is me. But if I know you, I'm going to get quieter at times. And then I'm going to get loud and in your face again. But I will go, it's like all good friends. You get comfortable enough to have some silence between you.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to go and over-shug it or under-shug it. So it's kind of funny. I was down there for a few days, and a guy named Mr. Pickle showed up late, and he does YouTube stuff, and we were talking a lot, and right away I was going, oh man, this guy's like on fire. He's in your face and asking questions, and I liked him immediately. And then later he told me a story that night. He said, so I got here late, so I went by a guy named Tacoma who'd been here the whole time with you, and walked by him and said, Shug a douche? And he went, no, Shug's not a douche. And I think what it is, you know, if you're going to do YouTube, you can't contrive what you are. It has to be an honest representation of who you are. And I'll get the comment from people sometimes, oh, you know, if you didn't act like such a third grade teacher, I could watch you. And I'm like going, well, I don't think I'm going to change, because if it's not fun for me to do the video, then I'm not going to do the videos to just give you the facts, because I got to have some fun, and I'm a show off. I'm going to interject myself in there. This is the true me. It's just a slightly heightened version, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you lead one of your orientation classes, there's probably a slightly heightened version of you. You have to kind of come up a little bit to this thing, because you have a lot of people that are there to learn from you and are expecting something. And it may not be a louder you or anything, but I say it's like a pilot light. You're kind of, you know, you're turning up that gas a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I am. So I always think I want people to go, if you meet me, yeah, that's who I am. I get in my hammock the same as everybody, man. It's just the power of, you know, it's the power of a medium. It's the power. I think video is probably, in movies and all that, are the most powerful. I've had people take selfies with my hillbilly pot because they saw it in my, they came and did a selfie with me and then saw hillbilly pot and said, dude, is that hillbilly pot? And took selfies with it. And I was going, I have to be careful with what I do, because this is powerful.
Yeah.
This cook pot of mine, they know it, and they're taking a selfie with it. It is like a character. So, you know, you can do good with this stuff, but what it is really, I'm trying to inspire people that are more my age, let's say 45 and up, that see me camping and go, well, he can do it. I could do it. It's not rocket science. And I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I was going to say, people your age, I think people my age sometimes think that the younger folks are kind of an indoor society. We're gaming, we're interneting, and it's not necessarily true at all. You know, just watch the exports. I mean, watch the Winter Olympians going, you don't get it good at that kind of skiing unless you're up on the hill in the cold all the damn time skiing. Yeah. So it's not really true. It's an impression we get.
Yeah. I think that's kind of, again, why I've done this as well. But it's part of all of these stories is kind of looking at the impact of social media and YouTube and everything else like that, is whether those platforms have taken away the drive to get outside and explore, because we can look at it on our screens instead while we're sat on the toilet or whatever. Does that mean that we don't have to go out and do it ourselves? Like, I want to get those people and make them think, actually, you know what, I do want to get outside and do it, instead of just sit here and look at it on my screen, because I can go and experience this for myself.
Well, there is a rush. I know here in the States, like in the Linville Gorge, I have a lot of videos from there. It used to be no one knew of that place. And, you know, it has Facebook pages now and everything. And there's a groups, and it's more of the younger, it's more of your age people, you know, I'd say 30s and younger. And their thing is, and it's a lot of young ladies too, they go out and they want to take pictures of themselves at all the high points, you know, to put on their pages. Now, some of that you could think, okay, they're just being posers to get out there. But you got to think, for most of them, they're going to get out there and go, this is amazing. I would have never come here had I not been driven to get myself posing in a selfie at this site. So I think it's a mixed bag. You know, maybe the lazy people are, I'll never have to go there. I'll just watch Shug's thing, you know. But I feel like that would really be the minority, you know. I mean, honestly, when I'm on the trails, I run into people your age way more than my age. And a lot here in Minnesota, a lot of solo female hikers that are young. Okay. And probably if sometimes I'm able to have a conversation, because when I'm coming down the trail alone, I always pull to the side and I hang my hands up on my hiking poles, like a big bear, because I think people are scared seeing an old man in the woods, you know. Of course, they think an axe murderer. So I step on the trail. I'm friendly. If they just want to keep going and not talk, fine. And sometimes we'll have a little 3-minute chat. And usually I find, whether they're male or female, a lot of us don't have friends that want to go out in the woods and do backpacking. So they're on a hunt to kind of have these Facebook groups or finding like-minded people. I was always lucky I had friends to do it with, but I go solo a lot now because I can go on my own time.
Yeah.
And I love a solo, to be honest. I love going with friends. I would say one time with friends and 3 solos, I'm really happy, because the solo, you just have your own freedom to film, to see, to stop, to do whatever you want. It's like, all this stuff is it's even further out,
Yeah.
just like, it's just me in the woods, man.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. When I did my first, I suppose, first proper solo a couple of years ago, maybe even last year, to Wales. Did a few of the peaks around there and did an overnight in my hammock and stuff. And it was amazing just being able to go at my own pace and look at the things that I want to look at, take my time to do whatever it is, and set my kit up wherever I want to be set up. And it was just that sudden freedom, which, when a lot of my trips were done with the 3 guys that I go to Sweden with, and we do a lot of other things elsewhere as well. And suddenly getting out of that and being so self-sufficient and being free to do whatever I wanted during my 2 or 3 days in Wales was amazing. Just even more of that relief.
It is. It's selfish in a way.
Yeah.
It feels that way, but I think it's a great way to get in touch with yourself. And, my sister-in-law has always asked me, don't you wish you had someone to talk to? And I go, once in a while, once you've made camp and that little time of night when you're fixing your dinner and having a little fire, we all crawl in the hammock. At least I do, pretty early. I can't wait to get in. Once I've eaten and ended my day of walking, I'm like going, let's just sitting down by the lake or something for a little while, and maybe smoking a cigar occasionally, or I'm going to crawl on into sleep and just enjoy the whole day the next day. But really, I don't crave the company. I was always a kind of a loner as a kid. I just kind of make friends a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think it was being a military kid traveling around the world. You got used to, me and you might be friends in some country. Our dads are both stationed there. Your dad gets deployed somewhere else. You're gone. You just have to, all right, James, see you, man. You jump into the friendship quickly and had to say goodbye to it quickly, knowing this was going to be part of your life, But that solo, to have that for filming purposes, for me, it's so much easier to film a trip. And when I talk into that camera, it feels even more important to, strangely, it's like the Tom Hanks movie where he was talking to the volleyball. When you pick that camera up and I'm looking in that lens, for that couple of minutes, I'm actually talking to somebody. It's a strange thing. It's not like, I'll load this in later and put it. No, in that moment, and I think most people that do YouTube would tell you, if you get into it and you look in that lens, you are talking to someone then. It's just like, it's going to have to do some time travel, like the speed of light before it gets home and gets edited and gets uploaded and then gets on YouTube, and then people start commenting or whatever. It does feel that way. There's a connection that's almost the same as turning and talking to your friend. But after 2 solos or so, I'm ready to go with somebody and share that experience. But I think once you've done a solo and you like it, and I always look at people that hammock going, anybody that hammocks has a introverted quality in them to want to sleep alone, and you're hanging with everybody by the fire, but you get to go over to your own little space without being in that tent with somebody like right on you.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
I'd
think
say,
that's why some people don't like hammocks, because they don't like the exposure, but they don't like being alone.
yeah, yeah. I'd say it's. I've never really thought about that. Obviously, like I'm a bit of an introvert myself, and the guys I hike with are exactly the same. They're very introverted too, and all four of us hammock, and we hang around the campfire, do whatever, and then we'll literally spend the whole night away from each other in our own little
Yeah.
pods, just like leave me alone now, I'm done. It's like, yeah, never even thought about that.
You know, I read a book years ago, and it was about, I did a year of psychotherapy to find out if I was crazy or not, because my family's always going, "You're crazy. When you get into something, you get into it so big. Come talk to us." And I'm like going, "Well, come out here and talk to me while I'm messing," because I am an alcoholic, and I used to be the life of the party, and they're drinking. When you quit drinking, at a certain point, you don't want to hang with everybody that's drinking, because they start slapping, hey, telling you the same joke, and like, I don't want to be part of it, especially middle-aged people. They're gross. And then they start going, "You're just judging us." And I'm going, "Well, I wasn't, but now I am." So I was going, "Am I crazy? I don't know." So, and then people always say that circus clowns. So I did a year of psychotherapy. It wasn't about getting medication or anything. It was just about getting in touch. By the end, I was treating my psychotherapist, Dr. Bob. But what I learned, I finally said to him, I said, "All right, Dr. Bob, based on the criteria here, what am I?" And he went, "Well, you're a spirited introvert." And part of my thing when I went in to talk to him, I said, like, it's my Shug thing, but it was a Sean thing before. When I go to a party or something, me and Meg go to a party, I come in. If I didn't know you and I saw you over, I'd come over and introduce myself. You'd have a British accent. I said, "So where?" I'd say, "Where are you from in Sweden?" And you'd, "No, I'm from the UK." I just do something smart alecky, get a conversation, say hey, find out how you know the host of the party or something, tell a lie, whatever,
Yeah.
shoot the shit, but make myself known to you, because we're going to be at this party together. And then I do what I call work in the room. Go around, see some old friends, always make sure to chat to the folks I don't know, and the couple of people that to me look uncomfortable standing really far away. I go over, just ease over like a big bear and find out how they came to be there or something. And I hit it real hard and loud, make a lot of noise. And then people always go, "Oh man, you were in the party cutting up all night." And I go, "No, I wasn't. It was about a hard 20 minutes. And then I fade away, a Colonel
Yeah.
Flag. And I'm out back talking to you about map and compass,
Yeah.
And then if the party goes long, I go in and make another round. So it's always been a technique of mine. So people think I'm out there cutting up longer than I am. See everybody, make a
Yeah.
lot of noise. So he said, "You do that to protect yourself." I said, "Yeah," because he said, the whole thing about the book I read and talking to Dr. Bob, extroverts get their energy from other people. Introverts, we get it from, so I hit hard and then I have to kind of go be alone or just with another person to get my energy back up so I can be at a normal human level again.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how that works, but it's totally how I am. So I think that hammock thing, we all hang, then we get to all go to our little places out in the woods. And, even me and Hickory, when we camp, sometimes one night we'll be sort of right beside each other on a sort of a triangulated tree hang. But the next night we're really far apart, and it's just like you finally get to over and you lay in the hammock and do that groan, and no one hears it. It's just you. And I've always thought, yeah, as hammockers have to have that little touch of being introverted to even be able to want to. You see couples that are trying to work their hammocks together and two in a hammock. I go, you got to really like somebody to be two people in a hammock. I mean, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then just the thing I love about introverts and extroverts, I find that most people that are YouTubers or bloggers, you know, writers in general have to be introverts, artists, because you have to spend so much time by yourself
Yeah.
creating. And then you get your payoff. The book is out, you go do your publicity tour, and by the end of it, you hate people. You're so exhausted. You're reading passages or you've been at your art opening and you're having to talk to everybody. And you just can't wait to get back in your studio and do your thing where your energy is up. So possibly this comes back to the woods for us, the outdoor activities is just a place that we can feel not so crowded,
Yeah,
a bit.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And there's also that even though you're alone in the woods, you're not really alone.
you're not really,
Like
no, you're not.
everybody, like, I don't. It's strange, but when I first, I've been going outside and doing outdoorsy stuff since I was tiny, and then left it for a little while, um,
And it came back to you. You missed it, didn't you?
and it came back. Yeah, and it came back
I
to
had the
me. But
same experience myself when my daughter was born. I was like, 3 years went by and I didn't camp. And I said, I must rectify this because I'm going to become one of those guys. Another year goes by, I don't do it another year, and you might be done. So you probably already tasted that.
yeah, and it came back to me more as a medicinal thing, I suppose. I left it, and then I was a prison officer for about 5 years, and
What officer?
a prison officer, like
Oh,
correctional officer or whatever you'd call them, and yeah,
yeah.
um, and
That's got to be a hard job.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
the
mean,
stress of
emotionally,
that,
you know.
yeah, emotionally, as somebody, as I said it earlier on, who is apparently emotionless, it absolutely destroyed me pretty much, and I was a mess. And I had to take some time off to kind of recover. And
That'd be a good campfire story sometime.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And that there are so many stories that come out of that I probably shouldn't put over this, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a campfire story. And it was during that time off that I took myself out and properly immersed myself again back in the woods on the trail. And that's where all of this started originally. That was the main thing, where writing and being creative was my vice to help me and put my brain in order. And I literally set this site up to,
that's a great term, to put your brain in order.
right.
I'm going to remember that one because it's, the brain can do so much and get sucked down. And I can only imagine with the prison thing, my first thought would be you're feeling compassion. You probably feel hate on some days. It's probably just strong. It's like what I would say about the circus. It was never gray area. It was black and it was white. You loved it or you hated it. You never went, this job's fine. And that kind of thing can, you know, physically, your soul, your heart, all the parts of your body, your brain, which is controlling everything, you've got to kind of rewire, reset. So I imagine that all this was probably, I don't know if healing's the right word, but you said medicinal, a road back to connecting it in a good way. And
Yeah, yeah, it gave me something to focus on that I actually loved doing beforehand. And then suddenly being from this place where you are locked in for 12 hours a day or however long my shift was at the time, to being able to just get out and be in the freedom of the woodlands on the trail all day and actually finding things that I loved again really helped me put my brain in order. And it sort of brought me to this point where it's like, actually, it's not just about going out for a walk. There's so much more to it. It's
well,
unbelievable.
the great thing is that I'm realizing at this age, and in some of my videos lately, I've had a few, I've been wanting to do this video where I go and get a bunch of camo, and I was going to play a British bushcrafter, because some people are going, Shug, you're starting to get a little bushcrafty, because I'm kind of focusing more on building fires and splitting wood and sharpening my knives. And it's like, you don't have to be set one way in your backpack. And I'll continue to hammock, but I want to do the rest of my camp time. You can go into little different areas. Like maybe you really get into map and compass for a while, for
Yeah,
a couple of years. And then you really go, okay, now it's more into, I'm going to get a little bit more into how to sharpen my knives and just, maybe I'm even off video going to teach myself how to set snares, because, you know, if I start doing it on video, people are like, you don't know what you're doing. So you have to be careful what you show. And I've been really into coffee lately because I started watching James Hoffman. I was wanting, you know, because I'm an ex-drinker, I was just wanting a drink to be excited about. So I went down the espresso rabbit hole. And it's great at my age, because I always tell young people, you know, I'll tell you this, James, like I tell my daughter at 29, because I remember somebody, you said 29, right?
Yeah.
On my 29th birthday in New York City, a guy said to me, hey, Sean, you're 29 now. You're not in your mid 20s anymore. I remember going, hey, thanks, man. And, but the beauty of that is, if you want to be new at something, you have to start something new, you know. I mean, you'll never be able to go back to your humble beginnings of orienteering. I'll never be able, I tell people all the time, I wish I could discover hammocks again, though I wouldn't want to right now, because even since I've learned it, there's so many more fabrics, so many more designs, so many more vendors, so many more it's come a long way.
Yeah.
So many more suspensions. It's even more confusing. But just taking on a new skill makes you new at something again, that go, I'm either good at it, or to go, I'm fucking horrible at this. Me go back to the things I do well and go, hello, friend. I wasn't leaving you. I love you. You got to step out of that comfort zone. And, you know, we can do that with the woods, even though it's not our job. You know, YouTube's not my job. I make a little money at it, because you will eventually, but it never was I didn't quit everything just to hope to be a YouTube phenom, because it ain't really going to happen in backpacking. You just go, hey, man, I get a little bit of grocery money through the Google ads, but it was never the point. It was about delving in. You know, the hammocks reinvigorated my backpacking at a time I needed it, made it more fun for me. And as I continue on, I don't want to be one of these old guys that just gets old and curmudgeonly, you know, becomes a curmudgeon. You know, that happens naturally, but you've got to find, I always tell my students at the U, I teach in the acting program, I teach them circus skills. Like, I'm envious of you because you're in a place where you're on your journey to this great thing. So I'm going to take some acting classes, because I'll be new again. I'll be the new old man in town. So, you know, it's fun to do that with our backpacking, like the camera, like just looking at mushrooms when it's mushroom season, just taking in all those things. I'm probably going to get all my maps out now and even bone up on my orienteering after talking to you, just because it always takes some practice and revisiting, you know, just like, oh yeah, you know, I know how to triangulate, and I know how to set a bearing, and, you know, I know my magnetic and true north, but you know, you got to revisit it once in a while, because it's kind of a skill you can get rusty at a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, even just following, I just like setting a course and following it sometimes, you know, just set a bearing, and that's our bearing. That's pretty much the direction we're going for a while. So we'll adjust later. And, you know, just getting that compass out and looking at it, there's just like, nope, we're way off. Not even close, you know. So that's something you can always do. So it's kind of like the medicinal, soulfulness, be a better person, manliness, the Billy Jack moment, all these things we've been trying to, I feel like in this conversation, you and I have been trying to find words to put on these things. And I swear, I don't think the words are there. I think it comes out through writing better than talking, you know, or maybe even in a video. In some of my favorite stuff in the video is not the stuff where I have to edit myself. It's what I call my B-roll. Just film. I learned years ago, because so many guys from the UK, I have a lot of viewers from the UK, and I love watching them, to see their cook kits. And when they're cooking up some Sainsbury's sausage, I'm always so jealous, because we don't have any sausage here in the States that tastes like a Sainsbury's sausage.
Oh, okay.
It don't have the flavor. It just doesn't have the meat. It just doesn't. Sainsbury's sausage is very distinct to me. I crave them. So, so for me to take the time, I had to learn that the viewers would take it to do a very slow pan. You know, like if this was the camera, you know, you can't pan this fast. Kind of hold your breath and really slow pan and show the area you're in, you know,
Yeah.
and turn it back toward the campsite, because they were wanting to see what my woods look like, you know, and you realize, oh, true outdoors people. But then there's the people that just walk down a trail with the camera bouncing and they film nothing but the bouncy trail. That drives me crazy after 10 seconds.
Mhm.
But a nice seeing, you know, what I always loved looking at any video from the UK or Sweden, the Swedish guys all have really particular cook kits and little ways. It's more related to the stuff in the UK than it is to the stuff in the US.
Mhm.
But I love to see, that's why I just love seeing your billy pot and that little stand you have. Like, I love all that minutia, because that's special stuff that's kind of saved for the woods. You get to go play with it then, you know.
Yeah.
Everything tastes better out of it then than it does at home for some reason.
Totally.
We're just heightened. I just feel like we're heightened rather than closed off. And I think through this meeting, that's what I'm going to walk away with. Our talk is, I never thought about it to you when I talked, that sometimes it's good for me to talk, because I'll say things and go, oh, I didn't even realize that till I just said it. I feel like we might be letting more in when we're out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The first time, going back to talking about Sweden again, the first time we went, because I always take a journal and I write, like, every night, once we're in the hammock or whatever, I write up the day, whatever we did, and it's all.
No, you're a scribe, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good. I wish I had that skill. It's powerful. It's a powerful skill to utilize.
Again, I don't know whether it's the whole putting my brain in order again, but it is the whole of that processing, where you get to write down, actually, this is what happened today, this is what I experienced and what I felt. And it's not something I say I don't share it, but at the time I don't let other people read it. It's my own personal thing. And then on the site, you'll find sort of the blog section, where some of the bigger trips, like the Sweden ones, I've written up my journal, but also written my own accounts from it on there and used bits of that journal. But at the end of the first,
a few things out of there too.
Yeah,
You base a little something around.
Yeah, and at the end of, I'm sure it's the first one. At the end of the very first one, I kind of came to the realization that actually the four of us, we're very similar people, but we all gain something completely different out of our sort of 4 or 5 days outside. And whether that was just kind of like a digital detox, getting away from social media or whatever, or getting ourselves back into nature and that freedom and the relaxation. But again, it's that, can't really put your finger on it, can't say what it is, but we all gain something completely different out of it. And it kind of, I don't know, it's eye-opening. It's you can't say what it is, but there's something out there for everybody.
Well, that's a good point, because I think if you took the time, everybody takes something different away from every experience, even if you're in the same experience. Yeah. Like my buddy Hickory, he's a scribe for us. He wears a Tilly hat and he has a little pocket here, and he's always kept just a little notepad, and he writes I film, but he writes our day by day, because we'll be out there sometimes going, where did we camp 3 days? It was just 3 days ago. It's not like we've been running all, we're trying to recall. So I could scroll through my video, but he can go to his notes and just go, oh yeah, man, we were right here, and he just writes these little, I could even send you a couple of his things. It's just a quick little summary of what we did, where we walked, what we saw, maybe a couple little funny things. It's just his sense of scribing. He's not going to do any more with it than that.
Yeah.
He just enjoys, he got the Draftsman Award in our school. He enjoys sharpening a pencil. He has very neat handwriting. I think he enjoys the action of taking his thoughts and putting them on paper, as opposed to what I do, because I'm lazy. I'll just film it and deal with it later.
Yeah.
So him and I are both taking something different away. But when you were saying that, I was wondering if part of the part of the equation in this, and I know it's true for me, is I've heard it said before that I love humanity. I don't always love humans. And I think that, I'm not looking to go to like a ski resort where there's hundreds of people trying to get on a lift. I'll do that for a day if, going with friends and stuff. But I always want to go, it's like, where are there going to be less people?
Yeah.
When I was young, when I was young and drinking, I wanted to be in the action. The real me wants to be a little further away from the action. So I think part of it is when you're in there with your thoughts, we are away from humanity, the energy of humanity. And, it's like, when you're laying in your hammock or just sitting and you start to hear a weird little bird call that you'd never heard before, or just a squirrel, or just some little wood sound that you may not have heard unless you were just sitting there quietly. And you're able to kind of go, sound like it's coming from there, but I actually think it's coming from there. You just get to kind of regard it for a moment and then realize I really need to learn more bird calls because I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
So, that moment probably for you to write it down is probably, it might be like me performing, or just, I have to do it somehow. And you may have to put these words down. Maybe the woods are forcing you to, and like you say, there is an idea in there here or there that you could elaborate on, but most of it's for you. It's like most of the footage I cut out, people always go, oh, I'd love to see more, or you should do a vlog. So you just tape your life all the time. I would never want to do that. I feel like that would just bore people to death. I'll do my videos and a couple of things where I'm going, oh no, I don't want you having all of me. If you're talking to me or we're meeting or even meeting like this, I'll give you all of me. But for me to present it on video to put out for you to randomly see, I don't know. Some of that I kind of want to keep to myself a little bit, maybe, some of those experiences. Though I have learned to put in, some people used to accuse me of making backpacking look a little bit too much fun. So now I try to put in a little bit more hard breathing, or that hill sucked, or just a little bit more duress. But at the end of the day, I'm going, it's not torture. It's not like somebody's whipping you with a whip and making you do it while carrying logs up your, on your back. No, it's, you chose to go out there, and there will be some hardships and moments of kind of, like when you get a little bit lost. I was at a campsite once years ago. I went out in the woods, just went to get firewood, and I was just traipsing through the woods haphazardly. And I turned around to go back to camp, and I was going, where the hell is it? And I started walking, and it wasn't that way. And I had to come back and stack some of that wood up, hung my hat up in a tree, and had to do, the wagon wheel walk to, keep the hat in sight, go as far as I could see.
Yep.
And it was totally the opposite way of what I thought. And I remember getting that little feeling in my stomach, like you're almost kind of mad at yourself, like, damn it, I thought I was so much better than that. and you realize how easily that can happen, even if you're an experienced person in the woods. Does not matter. Now I had the experience to figure it out where someone else might not have, through scout. I remember that wagon wheel thing, just go as far as you can see. And if you got to put another, but don't lose sight of that so you can go back to point A, and then just go the other direction. So it was interesting to have to use that. And I just went back to camp going, God, I was just getting firewood. How did I? But it taught me it can happen that quickly. It's like the guys that fall off, climbing Mount Everest. It's usually just a little moment. They clip off the line to let someone pass. All mountaineers go, you never hear a big scream. You just hear the sound of fabric whooshing on ice. You hear a lot like, whoops, and gone, just those little moments, and it happens.
Yeah.
So,
I was watching, I can't remember his name now. One of the guys that you were walking with, in your Black Hawk rescue.
Oh, it was the guy that fell on the gorge. Yeah.
That's a lucky man.
I don't know what style stopped him to this day. Now we had a friend die in the gorge about 6 months before. He had actually had an aneurysm hiking out of the gorge. But when we got down there where he was laying, and at the, it's always hard to get the perspective of a mountain on video.
Yeah.
But looking up from where he fell and where he stopped, there wasn't anything stopping him. There was no tree he went up against. He just stopped. And I saw him fall. I saw him log rolling. And then I didn't see the rest of his fall down. And I was the only guy that saw it because everybody else was helping this other man who was sort of struggling to get up this rock face. And I was just thinking, is he just screwing around, rolling down the mountain? And the pitch on that gorge at that area is about like that. And it taught me that day, thinking about it, that mountain could grab your ass anytime. We've backpacked on it so many times. There's some sketchy areas that, yes, it can happen, and it can happen quickly. And not that we were being cocky. That was a pretty hard hike that day. I didn't feel good about even leaving to go on that hike. I felt there were some people that weren't really prepared. It was too big a group. The guy leading it was good. I just felt that I was looking at a couple of people, and I wasn't being judgmental. It'd be like if me and you were taking some people out for an orienteering course, but it was somewhere rugged, and I was just going along, and we were having a little talk about it. And I'd say, I'm a little worried about these two. They just don't seem, it's not that they're not in shape. It was the way this man was walking. He never took his hiking pole. Like, he looked out of place out there. He had the willingness.
Yeah.
Just inexperience, I would have said, need to take him to a much tamer place. This is too much the first time. And that's what I felt that day. And that was part of the reason why nobody else saw him fall. But yeah, that was I was exhausted at the end of that day emotionally.
Yeah, I bet.
The
fact that you had to climb all the way back up to get out there as well.
That was hard. Like, where's the Black Hawk coming for us? It was an exciting day, but it was just, my buddy Hicks is, he's an EMT, so he's used to, big experiences like that, but more like car accidents and, just deaths in home. Falling down a mountain and holding an emergency blanket over a guy for 7 hours was way different.
Yeah. Just
keeping the sun off of him. But he's got a new knee now, and he's kind of a cult hero. But yeah, total reminder that anytime, it's like playing with power tools. You can get hurt, and it only takes a second.
So was it scouting that got you into getting outside, or were you always a bit drawn to the
I don't
exploring?
think I was as a real young kid, but once we started settling down, my dad is American, and he was a chief in the Navy. So we were always living around the world. But my mother finally got my dad, Chuck, you've got to get out of the military so these kids can grow up in one place. So once we started to kind of settle down, and my dad got out of active military and worked as a recruiter, kind of eased his way out of the Navy, and we were in Shelby, North Carolina, he would meet up with his local scout troops. He never wanted to be a scoutmaster. He just always loved the woods too. So he figured, if I get another scoutmasters, I can go along, and I'll bring my son. And so I would tag along. But the weirdest thing was, and it didn't dawn on me till years later, my dad on Sunday afternoons, the one thing I realized being a dad myself, a lot of times as dads, you don't ever get the house to yourself, ever. The only time my dad got the house to himself was when my mom took us to mass on Sunday, because he wasn't Catholic. So, and he didn't want to become Catholic because he got that 2 hours alone while we were at mass. And sometimes on Sundays, we'd come home, Mom would fix Sunday dinner, we'd have pot roast, Yorkshire pudding, all that. And Dad would sort of disappear for a few hours, and he'd go take these walks in the wood. And he would then find places in the woods, like a patch of bamboo or a locust patch or something, and then take me to him. And he would just take me on these walks in the woods. And it wasn't until years later we would cut these bamboo and we'd make little Christmas gifts, pencil holders, wind chimes. Started thinking one time, it's kind of weird that my dad goes for these walks alone. And he probably needed it. He grew up as a country boy. He didn't get a lot of time to do that as his 26 years as a Navy chief. we settled down, and on Sundays he had time to kind of take the car way out to the edge of our neighborhood. We sort of lived slightly in the country, and he could park and take a walk through the woods. And that was probably doing what we're talking about here, just getting a little moment. And he didn't take me every time, and I don't blame him. He would take me when he found something cool. So he was started introducing me to, I always liked it because he'd bring a candy bar along or something, and we wouldn't stay out for 8 hours, 2 hours, take me out to see something, didn't micromanage me, point out a couple of things to me, was pretty laid back with it. And he turned me on to it. And then I think at that same time, I was getting to the age where I was making friends, and we would just play in the woods after school. So it's different being in the woods with your dad one-on-one. And because my mom wasn't there and my sisters weren't there, it's a little different relationship, just two guys being in the woods. One just happened to be my dad. So for me, that was really my start of, I would say, around the 4th grade, of seeing the woods a whole new way. And then getting to go on these scout trips, even though I wasn't a scout yet, then becoming a scout. And then me and Hicks would just always camp out in our neighborhoods. And my friend Turk, we would, in America, you just camp out in somebody's parents' yard, and Hicks's parents live at the edge of the woods. So we just camp out down there, have candles burning, just be in this little canvas tent. And it's just like today. If we camp, he's always the first one to sleep. And even as kids, I'd be going, "Hey man, so that was pretty fun, walk around the neighborhood." And he'd go, "Yeah." He'd just start snoring. And so I'm lucky to have a relationship with someone like Hickory that we go back. We've been friends for 50 years, and we still camp together. So that was mine, even though, I mean, there's days sometimes I'm going, oh, I was sitting in on the couch, like after I'd be on the road with a lot of shows, sometimes I'm going, all I want to do is sit on the couch, eat a Dairy Queen cake, and watch movies. And I want to eat this cake. I want to do this in the middle of the day because I've worked so hard. I actually don't feel guilty about it. It's very rare for me to feel no guilt. I live on guilt, again, Irish Catholic, guilt drives everything for me. So when I can have a day when I can just ass off with no guilt, I grab it because it's rare. Because I'm already thinking after this, okay, I got to do a few things because I have to end my day going, okay, I did the things I said I was going to do, maybe a couple of extra. And at this age, and it's going to break your heart here, when you get in your 60s, when about 7:30 in the evening comes, you're tired, man, because you get up earlier and you do more, and you're thinking, I used to not even go out till 11 at night. And now at 7:30, I'm kind of going, I want to sit down. I can edit a video or take a piece. I got a new painting I'm doing right now, and then I drop it into my program and I kind of clean it up to get the print made. Just clean up a couple little paint specks and little doodads. I can do that kind of work, but I'm kind of done. I don't come out and do the big, and particularly during the pandemic, I might have some friends come over and jam some music, but we're not getting together and doing it. So it's like I'm going, 7:30, 8 o'clock, my ass is sitting down. But I will, unless we go down and skate at night. I was going to say about the skating rink, just one more thought on the outdoors. I get in my own head sometimes. I just always have. I live in my head a lot. Planning, thinking, sometimes obsessive thought, but I can control it pretty well. But certain days it's just like, but I usually have to organize my mind, as you said. And I was having one of those days the other day, and it was like -4, and I just went down and kind of scraped the snow off, and I just skated a while by myself because Meg doesn't like to go down in that cold. It has to be at least 10 degrees. Right. And I skated down there for about 40 minutes, -4. It's the end of the day. The sun gets dark about 5:30 now. The lights were coming on across the lake. I'm right down on this big lake in front of my house skating, and it cured me. It just re-centered everything. I came back in. My brain was just rewired. No racing thoughts. No thoughts down there, just actually kind of working on my skating technique. Get on the outside of that blade on the inside leg. You know, of course, I've watched a few YouTube tutorials on skating. Just going, I'm a 62-year-old man skating down at the lake by myself. Even the young people aren't down. The kids across the lake that play hockey aren't out in this cold. I'm a badass. And it felt, I was the only one down there, so I loved that even more. No one was there. It was gorgeous. And it just takes that to get everything kind of and back, you know, and it just showed me, because I think we're all like this, but we have to learn the same lesson over and over and over daily almost, that if you get outside, just cut some wood, just get outside, work in your garden, just go outside. I'll come out here in the studio sometimes or out back when it's not real cold, hang my hammock and just read for 45 minutes or something, and then take that little 20-minute, it just realigns me. But it's a constant, you know, when you're an alcoholic, you're always looking inside, but you don't look once, you have to look 20 times a day. And it's just like, I feel as humans, we never learn the lesson. You got to constantly realize you get outside, you go do something, you feel better, you're realigned, your brain is organized, and then you get back to a place. I don't know if that's personality. I like my brain the way it is. I like being into a lot of different things. Even when I did psychotherapy, my therapist once said, he said, metaphorically speaking, you should go backpacking more. When you talk about backpacking, your voice changes, you light up. And he said, could you trim any of your hobbies? And I said, I don't think I can. Every one of my hobbies I do, I kind of need. They fulfill a need in me. And some of them are just like painting and music are things I can do into my old age. I don't know how long I can backpack. Off-road unicycle, I had to quit doing that 3 or 4 years ago just because of my knees. Like some hobbies, it comes a time as you get it to an age where you can't do it anymore. And some you go, oh, I can do these to the end of my life. I can paint till as long as I can hold a brush and get up there. So I said, I think I need them because I think I need to be half-ass good at a lot of things rather than really good at one thing.
Yeah.
My circle of friends is wider. It's just the way I like it. I'm comfortable with it now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And when those things narrow down, at least you've got those other things to fall back on. Eh?
Yeah. You know, and take things like, to me, it's things that keep you interested. Like you must be interested in orienteering because it was like juggling and circus. I never got bored with it all my life. It was always to take it out. It was a tool to go perform. I was always going, I know it's not something people sit around and go, hey man, we're going out tonight. Sure hope there's a juggler there. That never happens. But if you can take that art form and win people over with it, it feels really good, you know? So I like to explore things and take them to a fairly high level. Some things I'll stick with. In the case of painting, it was interesting because I went to school for art, but I was telling you earlier, I didn't feel conceptual. Now I'm at an age where art doesn't have to be about a career. I can just, my whole thing is get the paint on fast, be sloppy, don't work tight, just get it done, get it on, build some pieces. Doesn't matter. I've had a career. I don't need a career right now. So, you know, it does take sitting down to think about, maybe for you, it'd be writing it going, well, Shug said I'm 29 now. I'm not in my mid-20s anymore, you know, and you're getting to an age where I always say, when I was telling my daughter, she's your age, I go from 28 to about 35 for me and for a lot of my friends is where I did a little light business plan on myself as a performer. Because my agent said to me, he says, you performers are funny. You all do it for a living, but you never treat it like a business. Because I think we were all trying to avoid business, right? But if you're doing something and you're successful at it and you keep getting work, you're in business. So I did a little light business plan on myself, covering those aspects, the SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, assets, and threats. And I realized I'm not the best juggler in the world. I have friends that are amazing jugglers and they never get any work. Why? Because they're fucking boring. Because most people, after 3 minutes of watching juggling, they go, I wonder if he can do 7. You know, my wife and daughter get bored with it. And I was going, I get a lot of work because I can speak the language of a crowd. Part of it was living around the world internationally, lived in the UK, lived in Ireland, lived in England, lived in Greece, lived in Italy, was in the Philippines for months, just going around the world. I think you adapt this ability to kind of, learn a little language where you are. I can talk about jellied eels and mushy peas, or go magalagabi to Filipino people and speak a little Tagalog or something. But you come to a point where you are what you are. But when at that age for me, it was about 34 when I went, okay, this is what I do. And I have a child. So it is time for me now to put a little more into it. Not going to go nuts, but I need to just up the game a little bit, where other guys were practicing a lot when they were young. I started practicing more as I got older. I looked at it like going, I'm going to have a longevity that some of these other guys who started way before me, they're already burned out on it. They're 35 years old, and when they get on stage, there's no light in their eyes. I have to maintain that light. How do you feed your soul? How does a person keep themselves interested in what they do, so that, like, when I go on stage, what's your girlfriend's name? Sarah. So you and Sarah aren't sitting there going, this guy's totally not into it. Why would anybody want to watch anybody that looks like they doesn't want to be there? And you might sit there and go, I fucking hate jugglers. But you go, let me give this guy 30 seconds. You go, this might not be that bad. And you can do that through sheer joy, So I learned to manipulate my own psyche to bring joy, to go, rather than get tired and burned out, I'm going to put more work into it and set a few goals, not new goals in learning, adding another object into my juggling, but a new way to look at it, just a new way to bring character to it or something, so that when I go on stage, I feel fresh, That way the audience will see light in my eyes rather than just a dead soul out there. And it's why I don't mind retiring, because I've done it for 40 years. And I always said, I want to get out before I become that tired old man on stage, And plus, we saved a little money and we're smart, so I'm able to do it. And, I was saying today, absolutely. I was telling Meg this morning, I was looking at going, oh yeah, I'm talking to James on this podcast or interview or whatever it is today. And I said, this day a year ago was my last gig that I did with this Canadian country. Yeah, because it was, it's a slower time of the year for when I was working. And then the pandemic hit like at St. Patrick's Day here in the States last year and killed all my work. So I decided to retire, to leave work for the young people. And I was getting less work anyway, just getting older. People wanted to buy young acts, and the agency I'm with, a lot of people have had me 5 or 6 times. And I'm smart enough to realize that, going, it's time to gracefully go out. Doesn't mean I'm done. I still might be doing that film in the UK someday. It's just a little independent thing. But it's going to be fun to, it's almost like you get to overact and play the epitome of evil.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that experience maybe, but I don't miss doing what I did. So in a long-winded way, what I'm saying is you're at that age where you're going to naturally think, I've lived, we live 18 years of our lives, and then we double 18. And what does that bring us to? 36. So from birth to 18, we're pretty cocky at 18. College kids, university kids, I know everything. Don't you tell me anything, old man. And by the time we get to be 29 or something, it's a bit more humility. You probably see your parents in a different light than you did when you were 18.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that stretch, you're starting to get going, okay, I'm not the young mid-20, I'm not 21 anymore. You start thinking about, do I want a home? Do I want another car? You start thinking a little bit of like kind of how you want to live.
Yeah.
Meg and I always wanted to live. It's like her thing was always going, the bigger the house is, the more we have to clean and the more we have to fill. Let's get a house that is normal. It doesn't say who we are. It's where we live. The inside does. She was always very practical and smart. Of course, I wanted a stately home and 5 footmen. I'm Lord Grantham. But my mom says, you think so much. You even want an ascot, don't you? I go, I do want an ascot and a monocle. But,
Yeah.
I think when you're with, like my wife's sexy talk I told you earlier, is we're a good team. And the other thing is people would come to her at a party and go, is that your husband over there? Was he in an accident or something? Is there something wrong with him? She goes, no. Why are you with him? She always goes, he has potential. I still have potential.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've reached it yet, but I love that, because being a good team, if you're not a good team with someone, then what are you?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't have romance and all the things, but you make a great team. And I do this thing like, okay, so in May, Meg and I will be married 36 years, and I will do what I do on every anniversary. I cook for her, and then I sit down and go, okay, honey, so I know you love me, but do you like me? And this will be her answer. She flips me off. I know she loves me. You're not wanting me to wear slacks with creases more, are you? So I get this little litany of questions, and she flips me off. And then I go, okay, so we've settled. And she goes, yes. But to me, settling, most people go, oh, you've settled. That's sad. I go, no, no, no. Settling is what you're trying to achieve. You settle down in a nice house. You settle down in a nice life. You settle down in love with someone that you can see every morning, getting up and have your coffee or tea or your morning, especially in the morning when both of you have to be in the kitchen, and understanding each other's rituals. And my wife is the biggest creature of habit, and me just knowing, don't mess with her sauna and her morning time. This is time for me to get some of my stuff done while she's doing her thing, and recognizing those in each other. And so settling to me is what you want.
Yeah. Mission accomplished, basically.
Yeah. It's what I think it's what we're after, instead of constantly going for that next thing,
Yeah, absolutely. So where were you in England when you were living over here?
Oh, well, when we were over there, usually the last time we were there, when Meg and I got married, we come off a cruise ship from between Sweden and Finland. So we went. I have a family that lives in Wanstead.
Oh, okay.
And though they're divorced now, so my brother-in-law, cousin-in-law, was the police sergeant in Hackney. So we were always over in Hackney. Now my mom was born in Tipperary,
Yeah.
and all of her family. But like a lot of folks in Ireland, a lot of them moved to London, worked at Marks and Sparks, and all had different jobs. You had your hardcore ones that stayed in Ireland, and like my Auntie Pat and stuff, they moved to London. So they ended up in Wanstead. So that's normally where we were going when we were in London, was kind of hanging with family there. I've got a cousin that's in Liverpool. So Meg and I and Ariel had flown over. This has been probably 14 years now. We flew over to Belfast because Belfast has a big circus scene.
Okay.
And it kind of started back, it was all the stuff with the IRA and all the little hard feelings between Northern Ireland and England. But there was just a bunch of people in Belfast could, screw it, let's get together and do circus. You want to do handstands rather than fight? So they were sort of a social circus to come together and do circus rather than just stay with this animosity with each other. And it became it still is a really big circus scene. So we went down and we went to London to visit some of my cousins. My cousin Gerald invited us to stay with him out in he lives outside of Liverpool. And my daughter was hugely into the Beatles at the time. So we went to the Beatles Museum. We did the Yellow Submarine bus ride and all that stuff. So we had a grand time. Just, was fantastic. And now Meg keeps wanting to go on holiday, but she wants to go somewhere sunny. I go, I can't help you with sunny, but we're going to go do these stately homes and have high tea every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. I want a lardy cake and a nice P&G tips. I just want to, I watch the Great British Baking Show all the time. I love baking. And I just, I made a Victoria sponge for Christmas. I make Corons. I have a European palate. You see in my video, people are always going, Shug, where do you get that, all that exotic chocolate? I'm going, just between me and you, I don't even like American chocolate. I mean, I want a flake. I want a crunchy. I want, you know, I want Maltesers. I want Smarties. I want candy bars from Poland. I like European chocolate. Just, you know, I want things with marzipan. I like German chocolates. My palate had it as a kid, you know, so it lives there. You know, the googie egg, you know, the soft boiled egg, the Sainsbury's sausage, just, you know, that lives on my tongue. So I'm deprived from it a lot. So I like to have it in my videos just because people are my American viewers are so confused by it. Like, where do you get those? And I'm like going, well, you can get anything on Amazon. But I
was going to say, is it people sending it to you from here?
Some people do send it to me where I'll get the nice little, some little bars that you can't even find on Amazon that I still have. Oh, right over there in my camping thing, I have my here, hang on a second. Okay, I keep all my little, now I don't raid this too much. I keep all my little stashes, you know, the picnic bars, double deckers, you know, even though this is the mint, the fries cream, the fries cream bar goes way back for me. The actual blue one is my favorite more than the mint because my Auntie Pat would bring it over. When they'd come over to visit us in North Carolina, they'd come over for about 5 weeks, and Auntie Pat would bring me she always had crunchy. Bring the crunchy, the Irish rock candy, and the blue, the plain fries cream. Yeah. And they would have, right when they got in, you know, they have a cup of tea with my mom and dad and visit, and then she'd get her suitcase open and start doling me out the sherbet fountain, the crunchy bars. So I would just sit there and wait, but when a viewer sent me some of the trio bars, which I really enjoy. And then, you know, there's the curly whirlies, the flakes, one of my favorite. Yeah. But there's a couple of bars now that are like the flake, but not as delicate. It can almost bring camping. So I got all the, you know, just your dairy milk caramel. So I just keep all this, the chomp. And it just confuses people. You know, they're just like, where do you get it and why? But, you know, if I see an Irish shop or an English shop in any town, any European shop, I go in and, I go nuts. I probably come out spending $50 on just candy and cakes, you know, and just, I look forward to, and also a viewer turned me on to the Penguin Bar. Yeah. Yeah, I saw one of those in your video. And I think that's where I thought, surely you haven't got those over there. But... We don't have those. So always has that little riddle. I love that. What do you call a happy penguin? A penguin. Nice. You know, so I get a little joy of waiting at night to have a double decker, you know, and then to put it on video. It just became a little hook because, you know, it's just like, it's sort of funny with video, what people will ask you. I've always even said, like with hammocks are very intuitive for me to figure out how to do. And the reason I started doing how-tos, because I found there were so many people that needed help with it, that I'd be thinking, I want to fly over and help them with their underquilt. They're struggling so hard. I want to help them. So that's kind of why I started doing the how-tos, but then just little things I can look forward to doing with the candies. And, you know, the little fudge bar, you know, and having fun with it and showing. And, you know, it's like just some people I'm always going, do people not know about Amazon? You can get nearly anything. You can get fries cream bars on Amazon. Okay. They take about a month to come. But when they, you know, so my palate is just, you know, I have a plate in the house that hangs over my stove, and it's a Dalton China plate of a court jester. And it was back in my drinking days, and we were in we were in Wanstead, and we were over in Hackney in a pub. And we'd go over to the pub, you know, and we'd pull up in Hackney, and these little thuggy kids would come up going, hey, you wanted to watch your car for you? And my cousin he says, you tell him the sergeant was here, and they wouldn't scratch up his car, right? So we go in this pub, and we're throwing darts all night. I'm juggling snooker balls, balancing bar stools on my chin, playing around. And the publican, this woman, at the end of the night, took that plate down and gave it to me. And it was just funny because it was this old man. He's going, been drinking here 40 years, never even gotten a free beer. And I said, well, look at y'all humped over. You got to give to get, you know, you got to put a little time in. I worked my ass off here tonight. So I treasure that plate just because of his line. Drinking here 40 years, never got a free beer. Hunched over his beer with his sad face. You know, that felt well earned. So that just sits. It's a beautiful plate. That was just a great night. Just a great night over there.
Nice. So is Shug your a performance name? Is it what? No, where did that come from?
Shug came, well, you know, Sean is my name, but you know, when you go on these online forums, you got to have some sort of moniker. But it came through picking bluegrass. Kind of started like we were down in Missouri. Missouri's real southern state down there, you know, probably a red state at the time. And the great thing about going down to pick music, it's kind of like camping. Doesn't matter what all people care about is what you play and do you play bluegrass. You know, there might even be some jams where you go, how about we do an Irish song? Go, we'll give you one, but you're going to have to go down there. They're playing Irish down there. We play bluegrass right here. You know, real hardcore. So, so gender doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. Politics don't matter. Religion doesn't matter. It's what you play. So we're playing singing these gospel songs because in bluegrass, there's just a lot of gospel music. And I really got tired of Catholic music because I go, it's like listening to the Doors all day. A lot of keyboard, a lot of keyboard. I need other instruments. Can we do piano rather than the organ? I appreciate the organ, but it's a lot of big, you know, minor key. I didn't love the music other than Holy, Holy, Holy. Did like that song. Holy, holy, ho. Just went too slow. So we're singing these gospel songs. And to me, it's like whenever you sing something that's kind of connected to the Lord, it feels more powerful to sing a prayer than say a prayer. It's like, oh, I never thought about that point of view, even though it's kind of coming from the Protestant, the Baptist end of things. It's going to the same place as the Catholic prayers, you know. So we'd be singing these songs, and it's a song called Cry Holy Unto the Lord. And it's an up-tempo gospel song. Cry holy unto the Lord, cry holy unto the Lord. Lord, if I could, I surely would stand on the rock. And someone comes in going, that solid rock where Moses stood. And everybody's coming in when you're singing that one part. Everybody's going, holy unto the Lord, holy unto the Lord, holy unto the Lord. So there's all these old men singing this. I'm singing the lead, and they're singing these parts underneath me. I've never even met these men yet. This song is going so good. It's raining, it's thundering, we're under this easy up, and there's this one little old man, he's a fiddler. And everybody said, he's the local hero. He doesn't pick with anybody. And he came over and picked with us. And he'd just sit there till it was time for him to play his fiddle, and he would play a break that would just give you chills. So they finished that song, and I kind of went, woo, that's for you, big shooter. And he said, son, you sang that song like sugar. So I just kind of being a smart ass kind of said, hey, y'all call me Shug then. And it just stuck. So it came from that. And then from that same little statement, one man did follow me over to my truck and said, Shug, could I have a word with you? I was newly donned Shug. So, Shug, could I have a word with you? I said, yes, sir. He said, I notice you speak a little lightly about the Lord. And I saw where this was going. I could tell he was probably very deeply religious man. And I said, well, sir, I said, think about it this way. If you got 5 kids and you're a father, you don't talk to all 5 of those kids the same. Some of those kids need this. Now, Jimmy, I need you to listen to me, son. I need you to do and be on the good boat today. You know, and then he's probably got another son goes, Sean, hey, try not to break your leg or something. Like that dad and that mom has a different conversation with each kid. And I said, I see the Lord. We all have our own relationship. And I said, God asked me once to take Jesus fishing and don't talk to him about the world's problems, you know? And I said, so we all have a different conversation, and you may need a fire and brimstone hardcore where mine is a joking relationship. And God, luckily he went, I've never looked at it that way. And he took the answer, because I was going, this could get long-winded. And again, it's like talking to you today. I didn't think about it. I just spouted off a comeback. And I believe that to this day, that the woods has different conversations with all of us, you know, the wood spirits or whatever you want to believe in. So that's where Shug came from. So when I joined hammock forums, I needed a moniker, whatever you call it. And I just like Shug. It's only 4 letters. It's, you know, some people have these really long ones that you wish they're probably sorry that they made a moniker that's 11 letters and 7 numbers. It's not an internet password, man. It's just a thing. So I like being Shug. I'm really Sean, but I feel somehow like I'm 2 people.
I was going to say, like, who? Because obviously, when we were emailing, obviously,
this is Sean. You know, Sean's the working guy, and this is Shug, and I feel like Shug is the hammock guy, and I've kind of become both. I mean, to me, they're both the same people. But when people would come to my show and call me Shug, I knew they knew me from YouTube.
Yeah.
If they call me Sean, then they usually don't know the Shug part. So it's kind of a weird thing that I'm always trying to keep a handle on. Like, I like being Shug because Shug just plays, really. You know, it's a little step away from Sean, who has to be the earner and responsible. But the names are very similar, Sean and Shug. You know, I think in what is it, in Scotland, if your name is Hugh, they often call you Shug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was going, well, I'm Hugh too, which is I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing. I don't see the difference, but if someone calls me Shug, I know where they know me from. So it sort of puts, it's just an alter ego, I guess.
Nice.
In fact, I don't like when people call me Sean when they comment on my YouTube thing. I feel like they're getting way too personal. It's don't call me Sean. I'm Shug out here. So it's a weird, funny little, this whole journey of starting a YouTube thing in 2007, of asking my daughter, when I did my first video, I was going, how do I get this video, honey? I see people put videos on these forums. How do I get that on there? And she said, well, Dad, you have to start a YouTube account and link it over. You can copy the link. And then I said, okay. So little by little, the YouTube became more popular than the forum thing. Like, I didn't realize people were going to start watching them, because I never asked people to subscribe. I never asked people to like me. I just put them out. Yeah. So it has been a bit of this social experiment to just see where it goes. Like the thing earlier I told you with the hillbilly pot, of someone just now recognizing your gear as a character, and thickens your skin. You know, sometimes people say awful things to you, and you gotta take it with a grain of salt and realize, I have a couple of comebacks. I realize most of these people probably hate themselves. And I write that to them sometimes. I have an answer. I go, don't run your shuck on me. Your anger comes from within you. Or sometimes I'll go, man, I feel sorry for you. You really hate yourself, but you're trying to take it out on me. I want to leave them with something that might make them have to think. And I've had people get back in touch with me and apologize for some horrible things. Or the one I can't understand, like, hey, Sugar, I didn't really know how to take you at first, wasn't sure, but I kept watching you. And in time, you've really got a lot of good information, and really started to like you. So like anything in life, my daughter asked me, she says, Dad, every time you publish a video, aren't you a little horrified? I go, oh, I am. It's when you get ready to hit public, I always leave something in there that I'm going, it's a little embarrassing, but I'm leaving it in because that's me, and that's what it has to be. And we can't censor everything, and I can't control YouTube. And there should be some people that don't like you, and you should get a few thumbs down. They can't all like you, you know? Yeah. And so it has thickened my skin and made me a little bit more thoughtful in my response. But I will respond when someone says, you know, Ariel always says, my daughter, you don't have to engage. I go, oh, by God, I'm engaging. You know, I'm not going to take this sitting down, particularly when it's really mean.
Yeah. So taking it back to getting outside then to finish, I've just realized that it's been 2.5 hours
I
of
know.
your time.
Anytime I talk to somebody online, I'm pretty long-winded. So, uh, but the way I look at it, if we're having a good conversation, it's the pandemic. What else we got to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, in your own words, in your view, why is it so important that people get outside?
Well, I think what we just talked about, what we covered, is this thing about maybe finding. I think you and I know for us what what it is. I think we talked about it, but I think for people that maybe haven't really, we all go outside. You got to go outside to get to your car. We all go outside at some point, but to extend your outside thing. Of course, I realize not everybody goes skiing or not everybody swims in the lakes or whatever. I think it's just that possibly if you go out on a bigger chunk of 36-hour, 48-hour experience, some friend takes you camping, you may find something that you didn't know you had in you. You may find that you don't like it at all. We can't all like everything. I think it's important to open your mind and try it. Because a lot of times I feel like, well, the outdoors is for those of us that love the outdoors. But, it's like when I talk to a fisherman who likes to fly fish, it's about standing in that river. Of course, they love catching the fish, and pulling in all these trout, but it's more the standing out and being in that river and having their bit of kit and gear that they use for that, and the drive there and the anticipation. I think all of us don't discount anticipation. I feel like the anticipation for any trip, that's it's the opposite of my dread of going to a party, my 24 hours of dreading it. It's a weird sort of anticipation in a way. It's just the backside of anticipation. But I know for every camping trip, building up to it, getting my gear together, I actually think sometimes that is as much fun as the trip. You're prepping, thinking about it. On the way up, you might have some doubt sometimes, like, hope I'm ready for this, and physically, mentally, always. Sometimes I'm driving like the king of the world. I got this. And then sometimes the woods just kicks your ass that day, because they always, if you in today's world, it makes the outside seem like it's going away. The world is an overpopulated place. We're losing all these places. Again, I feel like it's just shifting maybe. And no matter what we do, I don't think we can stop it. I think we could get better at some things, just like we can in any level. I don't know if it's just become a hot point. I've listened to some podcasts on some really smart guys talking about global warming and wind energy and harnessing energy from the sea and all these things that politically and money wise we're just not able to do yet. There's a lot of hope out there. It's going to take your generation and possibly a couple of generations behind you, probably more of that, to get there. I even was talking to my daughter about racism and hatred, going, we just always seem to come back to the same place. We make these gains, but then we come back to the same place. And maybe I used to think it'd be my daughter's generation, who's your age. I said, now I'm thinking maybe it's going to be two back. But, she was worried about war and terrorism once. I said, go watch Lonesome Dove. There was a lot of killing in those days. Look at there was a film, there's a documentary out on Netflix, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's footage from all the World War II photographers from Japan, United States, Great Britain, Romania, Russia, anybody that was in that war. Because even when I was in school, we didn't even study the Russia-Romania part of World War II. We just studied England, America, Japan, Germany. It's like going, oh, but you watch all this footage. And I said, Ariel, watch this, and you'll realize, I know 84 people just got killed in this bomb in a market, and it's horrible, from a terrorist. But there were 20,000 people a day dying in some places. And I said, in London, they were going down and sleeping in the subways and getting up and opening their little shops, fish and chip shops or whatever, in blown out buildings and rebuilding whole cities, most of the city of London. Look at that. And it's back. We've been there. So don't let the 84 people in Terrace, don't think that it's over, because it's not the first time we've been around this. You know, there were 20,000 Russians burned their own towns down so people couldn't do it to them. You know, none of this stuff is new. It's new to you, and it's new today. And I'm going, it doesn't make it any better or worse, but it might just give you a little piece that this is not all new stuff. And I kind of think that sometimes. I don't want this to sound like I'm anti-global warming, because I'm not. I think it's a very important issue to save the bound. You know, I go to the boundary waters and people are always thinking that's going to be gone tomorrow. But there's a lot of it, and it's not yet. So it's like, go to it while it's there. Yeah. You know, it's like people that worry. All right, I'll just say this. This might sound sounds a little harsh, Shug, but I see people get into hammocks or backpacking, and they want everything perfect before they go. And they start worrying themselves to death before they've even taken a trip about what may or may not happen. And I'm going, you can't think like that. You have to just go and let it happen, and write down your successes and write down your failures, but write down your successes too. Like, you didn't die, you know, maybe you shivered, but don't let worry. You know, I have a saying, I type it to some people on my YouTube thing. I don't hike with worry, meaning I'm thinking of worry as an actual person. I'm not going camping with worry. Worry's an asshole. I will be vigilant, but I will not worry, because I watched my mom worry herself into the grave. You know, worry's not good for you. It's like I always say when people go, "Oh, you're so obsessed about your mandolin." Go, no. Obsession makes people cry. I'm passionate about my mandolin, and people are jealous of passion. You know, I think when you have a passion for something so strong, certain people can be a little envious of your passion for it, or maybe it's the fact that you make the time, or maybe just because of your working time. It seems like people think I have a lot of time for camping. I just go, I'm making time for it. I'm on the road a lot in the summer, but when I can, I do. And you could too. I know you could. We can all work less, you know, where you're, you know, I don't know. It's a tough one, but don't hike with worry. And, you know, it's a really hard thing to say, because I'll even admit, getting into the long teeth part of this whole pandemic, it's beaten me down a little bit. You know, just the fatigue of it, and you know, just like, God, look at them after the Super Bowl, everybody out in the street without we're just never going to get ahead of this. You know, it's like, and I'm not perfect either. The only way to be perfect is not go anywhere. And I rarely do, to camp and just to the market and some stuff. But, you know, it has beaten me down a little bit. So I'm digging deep these days to be joyful and be bright and look at the bright side, really using all my stuff to stay there, because I think we're all in the world, just even the countries you don't hear about, going, are they having pandemic in the Arab countries too? Yes, it's worldwide. So I think we're all a little bit just bam, bam, bam. We've just been beat down by it.
Yeah.
And I think the outdoors has probably helped a lot of us. So I think the people, I don't know, open your heart to it. That's a tough question, what you asked. That's another one that's really hard to answer. Like, you can't drag someone out there.
No, that's kind of why I like that question, because it's so personal for each person, and it's so difficult to answer, and it's interesting to get that point of view from loads of different people.
You have to lure them out. It's like taking a kid camping. I don't want to go. Well, I've got hot cocoa and candy bars for you. And it's like remembering, let the kid dictate the pace. They're going to want to stop and look at everything. When my daughter was it can't be my pace. It's got to be their pace. And make it fun. Have marshmallows. Make the experience fun. Don't bring them on your experience, because then you're going to wreck it for them. So we kept my daughter's dog for 3 months when she went and did an Australian cruise ship, and she was in a real funny place, had broken up with her boyfriend. So we took Bean, and I'm not really a dog guy. And I was really like, okay, I got to walk this dog every day. And I did, my wife's the one that said yes, but I did 99.9.999% of it. And there was, in that first month, I was getting a little bit ass clenched about taking him for a walk. And I was trying to redo my kitchen, and I had to flip my whole brain and go, this walk is for him. And I had to make it one of those things that when we went for the walk, I put the tools down, I took him for the walk, didn't try to rush it and turn right around when he took his Duke. No, let's stretch this walk out and go have fun. And it really helped. It's like, he needs to walk, but I got to make the walk become mine too, rather than the chore. And it was a good lesson for me, and it changed everything for those next 2 months. Like, we do our 10 o'clock walk at night, and no one's out, and we just always see weird stuff, and just looking at your neighborhood a different way, going, everybody has a TV on. Oh, I love their little light up in their little foyer there. I like to pretend someone's laying in that bed, reading an actual book and eating popcorn. Just have these little fantasies that how you want the world to be. So
Yeah.
I think getting people out, some of us have to kind of lure them a little, make it short, and keep it short and sweet, and don't wreck their enjoyment with our own enthusiasm for it. Maybe that's a way to look at it.
Absolutely.
It's like when somebody's trying to get you into their religion or their politics really hard and not backing off. You're going, screw you, I will totally go the opposite way now just because you're getting on my nerves. But when someone really talks to you nicely about it, you go, well, that's a point. Let me look. I may not agree with it, but I'm willing to look at that point of view, and maybe it'll have an effect on me someday. But, it's kind of that soft sell, I think. And I'm still looking for the whys and the hows. And at this age, right now, why I'm still into it, why at 62, I'm going, I will fight this. Me and Hickory have already said, if we can only go a quarter of a mile into the woods when we're really old, then that's what we'll do. Because the thing is, you're still in the woods. I've had those days where I've hiked 20 miles, had a wonderful campsite, get up early, hike all day, 12-hour day, and get to a campsite that kind of sucks, and you passed all these other really nice ones. So it's like, okay, a little bit of it's the destination, a lot of it's the journey. Doesn't really matter whether you walk 20 miles or maybe a quarter mile. You just go into the woods. I do feel like distance sometimes, remoteness, like when I go to the Boundary Waters, there's a remoteness up there and a quiet that is different than other places I hike. You're pretty remote back there. And you don't hear any urban sounds, it's really quiet.
Yeah.
And I love that. You're out in a protected area, and the trails aren't marked with all these signs. It's just rock cairns, and you got to have your map with you. And there's not, and most of this is canoe country, but there are some foot trails there. But my new thing is I'm going to canoe this summer. I can go some places I can't walk to. So I'm biting the bullet. I'm taking up canoeing. I want to do solo canoeing. Really excited about it. That's one of my new things, and talking to a lot of Canadians about it lately, and watching a lot of videos on it. Pretty pumped,
that's exactly the route I'm going down.
What's that?
That's exactly the same route that I want to go down as well.
They seem to eat better. They have pancakes. And I don't mind, after watching these Canadians doing these double and triple portages, going, all right, it's going to take time, but I can get up to some of these lakes that I can't possibly walk to, and get away from the madding crowds. There are certain lakes where the youth groups and church groups, they're only going to take a portage or two. But if you go out there and really put in a day of portaging, you can get out there. But even on these foot trails, I just am out there going, man, I feel really alone. Like you said, you're never really alone. You might be by yourself, but you're not alone. There's always feels. Well, just the animals. I see a bunny rabbit or a red squirrel going, not alone. It's like a cat walking in your house, or your dog going, no, I'm not alone. The dog is here, or the cat's here. So I'm not really alone. And I always feel that the timber wolves are looking at me. Like, wolves are curious. They just come and It's a dude over there talking to himself. And I felt one time that I swear I had a Bigfoot experience. It was a really, I've had two sort of, I like to believe it, you know, I don't think there's death by Bigfoot, but it felt really weird. It wasn't scary. It was just kind of like, you know, I said, something leaned out from a tree one night when I was making dinner. And I was thinking, well, maybe it was a pine marten or an animal on the tree. And I was looking and I didn't hear anything. And I just felt kind of watched. It was kind of a cool feeling. Like, I'll have the camera ready. Maybe the thing will just walk in and sit down. Go, all right, you're going to be the guy that actually films me in focus, you know? And, you know, these little fantasies. I like to have little fantasies. Like one of mine is like going, I'm out solo on a lake. And I was thinking it with me and Alex. We were actually talking about it on that pulp trip on the frozen lake. Like, what if a UFO just came down and hovered and melted this big thing and just let us see it? And then just woof, like just long enough for me to get the camera out, you know? It's just fun to think about. Like we were looking at the sky and there were so many stars we were just talking about. I have to believe that we're not alone in this solar system. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And, you know, maybe, I don't know, it would Bigfoot or aliens out backpacking alone would be the coolest time for that to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe have one friend with you, but you know, it's just like, whoa, maybe they ever watch you and go, these dudes seem cool. We got to pick a couple of guys. Let's just let them. Guys got a camera. We can just put an end to all this and everybody's going to know we're out there, you know, because it's still like speculation and conspiracy theories and all that. Like, you know, and I'm sure if I put the video out, suddenly I'd be a loony bin, you know, and maybe it'd be one of those things you just write it in your journal and keep it to yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You know, go, I don't know. Maybe that's just a campfire.
The world isn't ready for that yet.
It's like if we ever have a campfire together, I can tell you some good circus stories and you can tell me some good prison guard
yeah, absolutely.
stories, because I can only tell certain stories as a clown. I realize there's a cutoff point with civilians, and I'm sure there is in your experience with being a prison guard, that only you could talk about to people that have shared that experience with you.
Yeah.
But I have done a show in a penitentiary here in the United States when I was a circus clown.
Wow.
And when you go in, it was when I was with Ringling Brothers. And when you go in, you know, we were all being like, I wasn't in clown makeup because I was singing a song, but my buddies in clown makeup, the guards wanted them to take their makeup off. But the funny thing is, they didn't have to. But when we got in there, the teeterboard act, you know, when you jump on the plank, shoot the guy up in the air.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we're doing the show, you're thinking, I bet these prisoners are watching this going, now, if we just build ourselves a seesaw, a couple of us learn to jump off each other's shoulders, we can shoot each other. But they were a great audience. You know, you're looking out there at them. I have pictures from that event and of the prisoners. They were so accepting to our show. I mean, a bunch of us circus people, they weren't mean to us. There was some cat calling and stuff, but it was all in fun, you know, because we got them outside and did a circus show for them. Yeah. And I remember it being a really positive experience because, you know, I think they were thinking, we don't get this a lot, you know, and, you know, so the guards were very wary of us at first. And in the time we were there, in the short 4 hours we were there, some trust developed. It had to, although, you know, for us to get out in the yard and set up the show and have elephants there and everything. It was a big deal.
Jesus.
Yeah. Send me your email, or I think I have your email. I'll send you a couple of pictures.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
I have a couple. I have 3 of my buddies standing, and they were in clown makeup, and they're getting ready to do the boxing routine, and they're standing there figuring it out. And right in the background behind them is the big guard tower. And these were guard towers. These were armed guards. This was a penitentiary, not a prison. El Reno Federal Penitentiary. This was a big deal.
Jeez.
It was pretty cool. And then I did another show in a prison once. That was an indoor show with my show. And I was a little nervous about it. I kind of just wanted to see how it went. Prisoners were great, man. I mean, you know,
anything different is welcomed. So,
I would think they're on their best behavior, but you know, you look at the face of the guards going, I'm in here for Cook's tour. I'm here 2 hours. They're here all the time. So, I think any civilian likens it to the movies that we see from the Green Mile, and you go, there's truth in everything and there's fiction in it in order to make a good story. It's like any backpacking movie I've watched, I couldn't even get through A Walk in the Woods with Nick Nolte and Robert Redford. I watched 5 minutes of it and I just wasn't buying it.
Yeah.
I did like the one with Kim Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
I'd read the girl's book, and I thought that was pretty good. Because there was more to that than just, well, like any adventurer, any person, I always find adventurers are the best writers, from, I forget the guy that wrote all of Shackelford's. He's one of Shackelford's officers, but all these old guys, they just write brilliantly, because I think their experience is so brilliant that it must just be easy to put down, and just you don't have to embellish it too much.
I think as we're approaching our third hour,
all right,
I think that's a pretty good. There's so much more.
I don't feel like we got any answers. It feels, I think we came close to getting some.
I think so.
Closer to an answer, but it's still, I'm still mystified by the main question, like trying to describe people why you do it. It's like, I don't know. I just always say too, it's the strangest sense of fun, and I'm not even sure fun is the word. It's not fun. Not like getting out and throwing a ball around. I've got to think there's even if you're a gearhead and you get gear and gear gets you out and you get into it, there's some sort of primordial, deeper thing that comes from our roots, I think, in there. And I was going to tell you earlier, one last thought, that, because I probably went on another tangent, but I've said, I feel like it's Christmas time. All right. And, there's Santa Claus, and however you look at Christmas, if you're a Christian, you get up in the morning and you get your presents under the tree. I don't know how to explain this for people that aren't Christian. Maybe it's under the menorah or whatever. You're going to have to liken it to your own version of Christmas. But in Christianity, there's Christmas morning. If you're a kid, you get up and there's your bicycle, there's your new sweater or whatever it is. And in our house, there was always the Christmas stocking, right? Old stocking hanging over, and you kind of forget about your stocking, and then you go over and check that later, and there's a candy bar or maybe $5 bill or something. So I was thinking, like, when I've always joked around and going, well, God only has 5 molds. It's like a Play-Doh kit, and he just kind of mashes the mold around and makes another human, changes the color of the clay, but we're basically all, flesh and bone. But he gives us gifts, and I believe that we're given gifts as people. We may not all find our gift. A lot of people never find their gift, like they never find their soulmate. I think I found mine. My gift, clown college and all that showed up, and I grabbed that gift and ran with it. So I said, God gives us gifts, whether we're lucky enough to find that gift and then hold on to it if it is presented. But then he gives you the Christmas stocking too. It's kind of like, maybe he doesn't do it for everybody, but it's a little side gift where he's going, maybe if this guy, Sean, he'll be Shug someday, finds this, I'm going to put it in his little stocking. And mine was the gift of the woods. And it was like, my dad got me into the woods, and it just comes down to, I just tell people, I find peace. The closest thing I come to an inner peace and a confidence that I don't have. I can muster and fluster my way. Some people think I'm the most confident guy in the world. It's generated, it's like most of us, but I feel confident in the woods. I don't feel scared. And, I think we alluded to that in a couple of different ways, during our conversation about the influx and the energy, and maybe just everything's clearer and everything's stronger. That's why we're tired. So I think it comes down to just something bigger and more powerful inside. It's tribal or deeper than that. It's, people always talk about our roots. My roots, I'm Celtic. I did my ancestor DNA. I'm from your side of the pond, and that's where my roots run. I have a little bit of Viking in me, and I have a little bit of Native American, but mainly it's Celtic, roots, Irish roots. And from those roots, it's like over in your part of the world, things go way, way, way back and way, way, way deep, just, and it has to be connected into that. But I think it's even more on a Stonehenge, more on an earth, just a wider, deeper level than even that, for something as simple as feeling at home. And I guess our conversation has been more, every time we talk about the outdoors, I'm thinking the forest and the woods, as opposed to out just playing football or just being outdoors, because that's where I want to be. People go, do you want to be on Mount Everest? I go, no, I want to be in trees. If you ask me, I want to be in the forest. I like the forest, more than looking at the ocean or more than being on a snow-covered mountaintop. That's where I feel like I'm from. I gotta believe that.
Yeah, I feel you exactly the same. I think there's lots of people that I see on social media or whatever who are climbing mountains and all that sort of stuff, and it's great for them, but send me to the woods, send me to the forest anytime, and I'll live there happily.
Well, I won that trip. I won that Backpackers Tough Guy Challenge years ago. As a joke, someone said I should send my video in as a joke. It was based on all this criteria, route finding, first aid, all this. And I just did myself, showing myself with map and compass. My first day was me doing a neti pot. I've got kind of a sinus infection, so I was using my gravity filter to kind of blow out my sinuses. And then I did a thing where I ran into a wolf. And there were actual camping experiences, but I just sent it in as a lark, and I won. And the main prize was to go climb Mount Rainier. And the only time I could go was at the end of the summer. It's actually the sort of least iciest time, kind of the grossest time to go. But I realized I didn't want to do it. I couldn't sleep in my hammock. And it made me realize I'm not a mountaineer. I mean, I won the trip. I'm going to have to rent crampons and do all this stuff. I can see myself on a fixed line with some 27-year-old hot girl going, come on, old man. And I told him, I said, I'll take all the gear. You can give the trip away to someone else. I'd rather go do the Wonderland Trail around the bottom of Mount Rainier because it's in the woods. It made me realize it's the forest and the woodland, what you called it. I love when most of the guys from the UK call it the woodland. And that's such a great term. It just sounds a little more magical. Even saying forest over woods, the forest. I was in the forest. I was in the woodlands. It just sounds, when people hear you say that, they're going, I want to go to the woodlands.
Yeah. I mean, I've often got strange looks from people when I say that the woodlands are magical. There is magic out there, but it's a strange thing to say, but there is. Whether you believe it or not, there is.
And maybe the magic is as simple for a guy like me. Anything that can give me a sense of real peace without me blowing my blarney out on everybody all the time. But just me knowing it, that I just can feel it. I can be 20 minutes into the woodlands and I can feel my shoulders drop. I feel my ass unclench. I feel myself I've even hit the woods before where for 10 or 20 minutes, I've almost had a wash of melancholia on the first, and I don't know if I was in my head thinking, did I rush this trip? Was there some things I didn't finish doing? And I don't know. I think it was just the power of the woods going, it's not always happy time, but it went away because I took time to recognize that feeling, of going, I just feel a little, I don't even want to tape. I'm not even going to film because it's going to come out like, okay, and I just experienced what it was. And within 20 minutes, it just turned into another feeling. And I think I can only say it's one of the places that I let it all kind of wash on me and happen. And I've never really realized that as strongly as having this conversation with you, which shows why having a conversation about this can make us both. I feel like I have a little bit more clarity toward why I do it, but I still don't think I can explain it.
No, no, I don't think it'll ever be anything that we'll be able to put a finger on to say what it is, but it's magic and emotion. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's enough to keep us going. I mean, after I know I'm going to be wanting, I'm thinking about, it's going to be really cold next week, and I've already been pondering I need to go do a couple of nights, but after chatting with you, I'm be going, yeah, we just had a death in the family, so I can't rush right off. My sister-in-law died from an aneurysm. So it's been long enough. I could go, but after having conversations with someone like you that gets it and is asking me questions that I got to think about, it makes me want to go to just to feel it again. It's like every day realizing, every lesson we learn, we have to look at it every day because we forget. Like, anytime I go winter camping by myself, I'm always going, now this is a really stupid one to be on alone. Why would anyone come out in this cold alone? But once I'm in that hammock and I'm warm, I'm going, this is why, and I'm always prepared. I've had people tell me on YouTube that I don't know how to winter camp, and I'm thinking, look, it's not like I don't walk around and look for like a down tree, like if weather blew in where I could hunker down and make a fort better than being under that hammock tarp. It's like, I don't want to tell them, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to put all that in the video, because that's not what I want the video to be. Paranoia. I always tell people, I secure my perimeter. I check sector 7. I look for a rock I can hunker behind in a windstorm to possibly give me some protection, buy me some time. But always winter camping, I look for a place I could throw my tarp, cut some boughs, get down in there, make a fort, stay put. Blizzards never last a week, and always have plenty of food. So just, you can't explain everything, but when they tell me you don't know how to winter camp, I'm going, I've slept out -40. If that's not winter camping, then I survived. I look back at that video, see myself sitting up having breakfast in the hammock, and it's like -32, and I'm just wearing my orange jacket, talking and happy, and it's like going, damn, I watch that one once in a while just to see what I'm wearing. It's the only time I go back and watch my videos. It's like, what was I wearing that winter? And
how did I survive?
That, sitting there having breakfast like that, having my coffee, going, happy as a clam. The woods were really good to us on that trip. There was no wind. Call it luck. I'll take it. I'm a schmoozer. So, I even hug my trees before I hang my hammock. Alex laughs at me, but I go ask permission. And then I coddle my tree and go, I chose you special. So please don't fall on me or drop anything. And then I thank them in the morning. Hey, thanks for holding me up. Appreciate it. All right. I'll see you again someday. And I do it just out of silliness, but I really mean it. It's like, they're living beings, and it just can't hurt. It's like, even being a Catholic, and I tell people, I go, I believe in God. I sometimes don't want to. The pandemic can even make you not want to. And I'm not sure the pictures we see or that likeness, but I'm hedging my bets a little bit. And I could never be agnostic or atheist, because what if I get to Heaven's Gate and they go, well, you quit believing? I'm kind of like, I'll even admit I believe in Santa Claus. I'm leaving all doors open. I'm not shutting any. I'm playing the long game here. So that's kind of what I do. And it's like, I believe in Shiva and Buddha and Haile Selassie and the wood nymphs and Sasquatch. I'm covering it all, man, because I don't really know who's in charge.
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah. Well, I've had a wonderful time.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure your girlfriend's over there looking at me going, come on, we're supposed to be going out.
Well, it's 9:15 now. It's 9:15, so it's about bedtime.
Not heading out to the pub?
Not allowed. We're in lockdown.
Oh, that's right. You guys are even in a worse lockdown than we are. Yeah.
Oh, we've got it bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not allowed out. We're allowed out. I think like once a day for a bit of exercise, and we can go to the shop, and that's it. We're not allowed out otherwise.
Can you get out? Can you even go camping right now? Can you? No, not at all.
No.
So that was the one thing here. They said if you can get somewhere on a tank of gas and not hit the towns, like when we first had our lockdown, you could go camping. Some trails closed, but the Boundary Waters went, yeah, you can go. So I did go. Now that was like 2 weeks or so after we had our first major lockdown, and I don't know what's happening here. They've kind of freed some things up, but it seems like everybody's, I don't know, a lot of people kind of taking advantage of it. But
Yeah.
I sort of, again, waiting it out. So, well, I hope you can get to the woods soon too. I hope this
Yeah,
all.
thanks. It's yeah, it's getting there. Now that we've got all this vaccine and stuff happening, hopefully it will speed things up. But
Well, 1918 was 15 months. If you go back and look at that pandemic, that was 15 months here in the States. And we're coming up on, I'm going to say, a year St. Patrick's Day. So I'm thinking maybe by May or June, possibly. Like, it's not tomorrow. We still got to stretch. But my whole thing is going, we got a ways to go, people. And, you can stick your head in the sand and not wear your mask and pretend that you're powerful because you're just ignoring it. But I don't know. It's brought a lot of crazy. I'll just keep it simple and go. It's brought a lot of crazy out. I even get my moments of going, I think I'll just go conspiracy theory too, because it's just easier. But no, just going to wait it out. I think we're getting into 11, 12 months coming on here, a few more. It's got to end. And for you guys and all of us. So maybe we'll get to meet someday.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
when you come over to Silverstone, give me a shout.
I will. I definitely will. I got your email, and I do intend to do that. Like going, come over. I don't want to put you out, but maybe we could meet for lunch or tea and see. And maybe because people always ask me, Shug, I'm coming to Minnesota. Could you take me backpacking? And I'm going, I don't know, but we could certainly meet for coffee or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always worth doing because, like I said, I feel like we've connected now. And,
definitely.
And I think it takes guys like you as much as it takes guys like me. Like I tell anybody that does a podcast, going, stay in the game, man, because so many people start these things expecting something out of it that doesn't really come. You just have to do it because it means something. And that's why I've stayed in YouTube. I'm coming up on my 100,000 subscribers now, and I'm supposed to get some plaque, but I really don't care. More people I would not even know if people didn't keep reminding me, but it'll be an excuse to have cake. For myself. I might make myself a Victoria sponge.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to do it. And, it's good work. Anybody, like, I like reading stuff as much as I don't even really like watching YouTube. I've just been watching canoe videos a good bit to whet my appetite, and even fishing. But I just think everybody that's doing some work like you guys, it's easy to sit back and do nothing. And not that I'm any hero. People go, well, what you're doing out there, Shug, is really good. All I'm doing is self-serving YouTube videos. Nope, you got me into hammocks. And I'm going, well, that makes me feel good to know. Or if I gave you the confidence to get out in the woods, then I feel like this BS I'm doing has some integrity. But for the most part, it's still just kind of fun, and a sort of weird fun, like backpacking. It's less fun than it was in the beginning. It feels a bit more like a commitment now, I will say, once you have a certain amount of subscribers. But that's life, man. You'll never know if you don't put yourself out there. At this age, I don't have anything to prove. It's just, but I always feel every trip like there's this, I have something to prove to myself, or have fun, or a good night's sleep. I don't know what it is. Again, that strange urge to get out there, but we'll figure it out someday. Maybe we'll know in a couple of years.
Absolutely. Just keep doing it until we find out.
All right. Should we sign off? Because I feel like we'll never get off unless we say
I think so, yeah. That's been what, 3 hours, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Man. Thanks for asking me. I appreciate it.
That's all right. Thank you for saying yes. And it's been a treat. It's been great. I've loved it.
Same here. I'll send you my prism pictures, and if we come over to do the stately homes, or I go to Silverstone for the F1, I may just shoot a email and go, why don't just come out and join me or something, or let's meet and have a little pub grub or something.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much.
Woo, buddy.